Kuzira Kingdom celebrated as the Black Knights returned victorious, once again driving back the demon threat. Cheers filled the streets while armored heroes marched proudly. Citizens praised their unmatched strength and loyalty. Rand the leader was admired by all. His spotless record ensured safety from any invasion. Among the knights rode Shira, a graceful warrior. Curious onlookers admired her beauty and commanding presence. She had earned her rank through merit. Eyes watched quietly, especially one hidden behind a helmet. Rotten hearts festered behind shining armor. The once revered knights hid cruelty beneath their polished surfaces. During battle, fear took hold. A monstrous demon emerged, paralyzing them with overwhelming presence and disgust, while others trembled. One man stood up. His voice scolded the frozen soldiers to move. Rande shouted furiously, ashamed by their cowardice, demanding loyalty and strength worthy of the Kuzira Kingdom. Shira calmly defended the exhausted troops, knowing the frontline leaders were vital to prevent collapse. Panicked soldiers scattered as towering demons advanced. Orders meant nothing when fear overran training and pride. Disgust followed Rande's next command. He coldly sacrificed lives, treating fallen comrades as disposable battlefield shields. Unfazed by cruelty, a lone warrior stepped forward, calm and focused amidst chaos and retreating knights. With practiced grace, he unleashed his technique. Energy surged as his blade prepared to strike in silence. An instant later, his sword shattered the creature. One decisive blow ended the demon's rampage completely. Steel sliced through flesh as Zed launched downward. Shira watched in awe, stunned by his power. Shock filled the ranks as Zed's blade shattered the demon's core in one clean strike. Knights stood speechless. They had struggled. Yet this stranger eliminated the monster without suffering a wound. Unsure if he overdid it, Zed reflected. His enhanced magic might have been unnecessarily excessive this time. Adjustments would follow. Now aware of the weakness, he decided to conserve energy in future attacks. Zed launched skyward, eyes locked on the battlefield. Dozens of demons awaited his merciless counterattack. A sudden eruption startled the knights. New enemies emerged, catching even Shira off guard with their presence. She warned Rande as danger closed in. Focused and silent, Zed prepared another technique to strike. Landing hard, he summoned compressed wind. Piercing force exploded downward, ripping through clustered monsters with terrifying efficiency. Though awestruck, Shira admired his precision. Rande, overwhelmed by Zed's power, saw it instead as ruthless destruction. Rande scolded his knights harshly, blaming weakness for failing against demons he once claimed effortless to defeat. His fury shifted to Zed, insulting him publicly and demanding sacrifice for the kingdom's glory. Despite the violence, Zed stood calmly. Shira rushed forward, afraid her father's blows would go too far. One glance changed everything. Rand, startled by Zed's eyes, sensed something deeper than rebellion, something unshakably resolute. Declaring the war over, she led everyone away, preparing for the victory celebration without delay. Zed received a scouting mission despite having already neutralized nearby threats. The order made no sense. Before he could question further, Rande shouted again, forbidding his return without confirmed demon sightings. Camp preparations became another excuse to command others. Rande barked orders, threatening punishment for every misstep. As evening settled, Shira offered kindness. Concerned by exhaustion, she gently urged Zed to take medicine. She promised cooperation ahead, but warned her father's drunken state would last well into morning again. He stared quietly at the envelope, unsure if his hands were clean enough to hold it. Shira observed him from afar, sensing his power stood apart from every other knight she knew. Tasks resumed in the training hall. Zed, bruised and tired, quietly worked among the exhausted recruits. Meals were handed out, but even food offered little comfort. Today's soup was merely salty water. Despite tension rising, no one blamed Zed. Everyone knew he alone prevented a worse disaster. Shira earned everyone's trust through her leadership, despite her noble birth and high-ranking position. Meanwhile, inside, officers feasted selfishly, ignoring the sacrifices made to secure their luxurious celebration. Others quietly remembered Zed's effort, who risked everything protecting comrades while barely able to keep standing afterward. Even outsiders noticed his power. They questioned why someone like Zed remained in such a place. He confessed honestly, until redemption staying meant warmth, food, and a reason to keep surviving. A smug knight mocked his living conditions, reminding him how little comfort prisoners were allowed daily. Long hours passed with tasteless soup, hard bread, and orders shouted by men hoarding luxury above. Thou worn down, he smiled. Finishing work early meant precious moments of rest before his mission. Voices reminded him of responsibilities, friends watching his back, and Shiera's quiet hope for his return. Under the night sky, she watched silently, clutching doubt, as his silhouette disappeared into the distance. A tired smile appeared. He walked forward, carrying silent burdens none around him could understand. To the public, Knight seemed noble. Behind closed doors, corruption festered beneath polished armor and praise. Mistakes were hidden, blame fell downward. Overworked and sleepless, he endured while others seized undeserved recognition. Staring at the sky, he wished not for glory, only a chance to live freely. Even dreams of freedom faded quickly. Prison chains weren't just metal, they bound heart and soul. Heavy steps dragged through darkness. Hunger lingered as he recalled the food Rand devoured earlier. Eyes glanced at the thin bed. A whisper wondered when meat last touched his mouth. Collapsing slowly, he muttered his intent to sleep. Moments later, a stranger entered without hesitation. An unfamiliar voice called out, startling him awake. He responded cautiously, unsure of the newcomer's intent. Bright light framed the visitor's smile. A question hung in the air, demanding his decision. A sudden offer challenged everything he knew, forcing him to imagine something beyond survival and confinement. Reaching out with a smile, the stranger waited, offering escape from a life built on pain. Lif offered Zed a new path, promising freedom, dignity, and a brighter future. Confused and hesitant, Zaid questioned the offer, having never imagined anything beyond his current suffering. She tempted him further with promises of warmth, comfort, proper meals, and the peace he'd never known. Zaid smiled faintly, admitting the dream's beauty yet uncertain whether he deserved such a change. Haunted by guilt, he confessed regretfully that his past sins chained him to the Night Order. He explained his burden quietly, believing freedom was impossible until forgiveness erased his unseen chains. Watching him collapse into sleep, the woman observed silently, unsure if it was despair or exhaustion. She pondered the situation deeper, noting his status as prisoner, then resolved to investigate his confinement further. Moments later, Zed's eyes opened slowly, staring ahead in silence, unsure if anything had truly changed. Rising with urgency, he dismissed it as a dream, then dashed off, recalling unfinished cleaning duties. Metal clanged in silence, as tasks continued, unnoticed by those who benefited from Zed's unseen labor. A week passed without rest. He staggered through routines, uncertain when sleep had last touched him. Colleagues greeted him casually, some noticing his exhaustion, while others questioned the severity of his recent orders. Though he forced himself to eat, exhaustion lingered, conversations revealed resentment, growing around Commander Rande's unfair treatment. Despite injustice, Zaid accepted his role as a prisoner, silently enduring, while others claimed credit for everything. Concern grew as he noticed others' fatigue, realizing they also endured suffering for their waiting families. Some shared hopes for their family's survival, justifying their hardship through state support and quiet endurance. Remaining silent meant less punishment, but if broken, they'd be discarded. Only the strong kept their place. Seeing one man collapse mentally reminded him not to reach that point, no matter the cost. Even with twisted logic, they clung to sanity, surviving in a world that rotted everyone from within. Thoughts of pain, hunger, and family echoed silently as he marched forward, clinging to purpose. A friend's light-hearted comment reminded him how even false accusations became part of his daily routine. Despite completing unreasonable tasks alone, he hoped silence would shield him from unnecessary trouble this time. Suddenly, a furious shout echoed through the hall, interrupting the meal and drawing everyone's uneasy attention. Exhausted and confused, he faced questioning eyes, unsure what crime was imagined this time around. A tense meeting began with unfamiliar faces, each side cautious as unspoken motives filled the room. Every eye locked on Zaid, confusion rising as he failed to understand their silent scrutiny. Recognition struck as Lif smiled warmly, revealing herself as the girl from his mysterious earlier dream. With confidence, Lif declared her intent, announcing she came to claim Zed and take him away. One officer erupted in rage, demanding obedience, declaring Zed a prisoner bound to serve the kingdom. Arguments escalated around the table, while Zaid remained uncertain, confused by claims made on his behalf. With firm confidence, Lif revealed her investigation, proving that Zaid's supposed crimes were entirely unsubstantiated. She explained past records of his arrest lacked real evidence and were never challenged by villagers. Her findings confirmed that he'd lived alone in dangerous lands since childhood, surviving without outside contact. Memories resurfaced quietly. He had entered the forbidden forest when abandoned, surviving alone among threats no one dared. Horrifying memories surfaced. His parents were devoured, while he escaped alone, scarred but miraculously alive. Since that day, survival became his only goal, hiding and fighting through monsters in isolation. Lif understood now how Zaid's strength made sense. No normal child could have endured such wilderness. Her tone sharpened as she exposed hypocrisy, explaining others thrived while treating Zaid like disposable property. With a smile, she shattered the illusion, declaring clearly that he was never truly a prisoner. Lif placed gold and documents on the table, proving she came fully prepared for negotiations. Smiling confidently, she declared everything necessary for Zaid's release, and recruitment was accounted for and complete. Her question hung in the air, urging Zaid to finally choose the life he deserved. Before he could speak, Rand exploded with rage, demanding loyalty after years of forced service. Ignoring logic, Rande delivered a fanatical speech, claiming Zaid belonged only to the kingdom's cause. Lif appealed to Zaid's heart, urging him to use his strength where it truly mattered. Rande's fury erupted again, while Lif challenged his motives, exposing his dependence on Zaid's hidden efforts. With voices clashing around him, Zaid stood frozen, questioning whether he could abandon everything behind. Shigira stepped in, urging him to choose freedom and help others beyond the Order's reach. With resolve building, Zaid finally spoke clearly, declaring his decision to leave the Order for good. Rand's voice thundered, accusing Zaid of selfishness. Loyalty to the Knights must not be questioned. Zaid declared his freedom. No longer a prisoner, he severed ties and walked his own path. Chaos erupted behind him. Shalira held back Rand, urging Zaid to escape without looking back. Furious screams echoed. Rande charged forward. As Zaid left, heavy silence settling in his determined gaze. Outside, Lif followed quietly. Zaid admitted he owned nothing, only the will to never return again. Zaid hesitated near the gate, torn by worry. He didn't know how to say goodbye. Surprisingly, the workers surrounded him with cheers. They had already known and supported his departure fully. He asked how they found out. Rande's furious screams had echoed through the entire garrison. Though guilt lingered, Zaid apologized. Leaving alone felt unfair, while others remained trapped in that place. Encouragement followed. Friends reminded him of Shalira's presence and promised to keep fighting without him. Waving goodbye, he left the compound with a smile, finally stepping into a new future. Kusala's capital spread before them, full of life. Zaid admired it, uncertain yet curious inside. Lif offered a fresh start. She led him to a bathhouse, covering all the cost. Relaxed and clean, Zaid wondered about guild duties, curious if adventuring meant chores or demon hunting. Excitement turned serious. Adventurers risk everything, hunting demons or chasing glory for gold and recognition alike. Lif encouraged listening to the people's needs. Through service, true purpose would eventually become clear. Past duties felt meaningless. Orders were followed, blame received, while others took credit and rewards. Now freed from the Order, Zaid could finally walk his chosen path without restrictions. Freedom settled in his thoughts. Every step now belonged to him. His own journey had begun. She extended her hand with excitement. She urged Zaid to follow and become an adventurer. Steps grew steady with resolve. A clear expression formed as commitment to a new life solidified. He reached for Lif's hand without hesitation, declaring his choice to become an adventurer freely. Zaid followed Lif into a massive building, bustling with adventurers, the White Guild headquarters. The staff welcomed Lif cheerfully, revealing her surprising status as their respected and admired guildmaster. Confused by the attention Lif received, Zaid began doubting everything he thought he understood about her. Lif proudly announced her position, baffling Zaid further, who still couldn't grasp her odd authority. Despite her confident claim, Zaid remained skeptical, struggling to accept this eccentric woman led a powerful guild. She snapped in frustration, claiming her current look didn't reflect the beauty she once had. Zaid noticed a striking red-haired woman nearby, silently wondering if she was the actual leader. Their eyes met for a moment, and Zaid felt a strange tension build between them. The red-haired woman began walking straight toward them, catching both Zaid and Lif by surprise. With heavy steps and focused eyes, she closed in, making Zaid increasingly anxious and confused. Recognizing Zaid instantly, the red-haired woman pointed at him, linking his presence to Lif. Without hesitation, she firmly declared her disapproval, making her distrust and opposition completely obvious to everyone. Rather than explain, she challenged him to a duel, catching Zaid completely off guard and confused. Her frustration boiled over, unable to accept someone skipping ranks to reach the top so quickly. Identifying herself as Quina, she criticized Zaid's sudden promotion while defending her own achievements and pride. Quina proudly declared herself more deserving, dismissing Zaid's position, despite others' rank recommendations for him. Lif explained that Zaid's strength was proven, making lower ranks meaningless for someone that capable. Solia, revered by many, had publicly endorsed Zaid, strengthening his credibility with unmatched magical authority. Most respected Solia's judgment, yet Quina insisted on testing Zaid herself to confirm his qualifications. She plotted to defeat Zaid in battle, hoping it would secure her promotion to S rank. As Quina pressed harder, Zaid hesitated, realizing how chaotic the situation had suddenly become. He casually mentioned needing rest, which enraged Quina, who believed he was mocking her challenge. Despite everything, others agreed with Quina, curious to witness Zaid's strength firsthand in combat. Lif pushed Zaid toward the idea, suggesting they test Quina's qualifications through this match. With promises of food and a proper bed, Zaid finally accepted. Surprising everyone with enthusiasm, locked in determination, they accepted the challenge, with Lif eagerly anticipating a dramatic outcome. Victory would depend on total quest points, each rank worth different values over 3 days. Rules were clear. Quests start immediately. Final scores compared 3 mornings later, without delay. With both sides in agreement, Lif declared the match official and the rivalry fully ignited. Privately, each vowed to win, Quina for validation, Zaid unsure yet strangely resolved within. Quina left with confidence, certain Zaid lacked experience and wouldn't survive the questing competition. Boldly smiling, she declared her intent to reach S rank in just 3 days. Inside the guild hall, adventurers gathered to choose from a wide array of ranked quests. Zaid quickly noticed how scarce high-level quests were, making the challenge more difficult than expected. Many low-rank requests remained untouched, left behind due to their difficulty, age, or lack of value. Others ignored the old requests, but Zaid felt compassion for the people who needed help. Without hesitation, he chose an outdated F-rank request, and committed to completing it personally. Despite being warned about low efficiency, he insisted the request had been delayed too long already. Reflecting on his past, he remembered how small favors gave him strength to keep going. For Zaid, helping others wasn't strategy, it was choice. Believing kindness passed on became power. Lif respected his choice without protest, allowing him to walk away and pursue his mission. Over 3 days, Zaid completed small but heartfelt tasks, helping townspeople and earning genuine gratitude. Meanwhile, Quina hunted powerful beasts relentlessly, pushing herself to dominate the rankings through sheer strength. On the final day, she returned confidently, unaware Zaid hadn't yet reported to the guild. Assuming he'd quit, Quina grew irritated, while Lif casually mentioned Zaid might just be sleeping. Zaid was declared the victor, shocking Quina despite her completing difficult, high-ranked quests flawlessly. Lif calmly questioned Quina, hinting there was something more important than just quest difficulty or rank. Quina glanced around, confused, only noticing the food and failing to grasp the bigger difference. Realization struck her every request on the board had vanished, leaving nothing but a blank wall. Then Lif explained Zaid cleared every outstanding request, no matter the rank, helping all who needed. Shock spread through the guild as Zeed's effort was revealed. Over 100 completed quests. Villagers arrived with offerings, each carrying thanks for Zeed's unseen deeds that touched everyday lives. More and more visitors brought food, telling heartfelt stories of how Zeed helped them directly. Guild staff watched in silence, realizing Zeed's actions were driven purely by kindness and selflessness. Moved by everything she witnessed, Quina stood overwhelmed, reflecting deeply on what truly defines strength. Confused by his overwhelming results, she stared at Lif and demanded to know everything. Meanwhile, Zeed slept deeply at the inn, finally resting after 10 relentless days without pause. Quina arrived at the inn exhausted, her thoughts clouded by frustration and quiet resignation toward everything. Inside the quiet hallway, she paused, debating whether to go upstairs and face the boy. Behind the door, Zeed remained asleep, unaware that someone stood outside, knocking with increasing urgency and concern. Startled awake by the voice, he panicked, scrambled up, and realized he'd completely overslept again. Disoriented, he blinked at the unfamiliar room and the mysterious woman standing calmly before him. Quina reminded him of the reckless bet, risking his S-rank title, which he surprisingly won. Although scolded harshly, Zeed received his gear and learned she was tasked with guiding him. Among the delivered goods, Zeed mistook preserved food for meat, reacting joyfully to the simple taste. When asked about past meals, Zeed casually revealed he ate monsters from the Forbidden Forest. She froze in disbelief, unable to accept he'd survived, let alone feasted in such peril. He proudly recalled meals from the Knight's days, claiming salt and black bread fueled his strength. Quina sighed at his eccentric habits, then offered to guide him through the capital's busy streets. Bustling market stalls and vibrant colors filled his view, leaving him speechless at the city's scale. Despite the lively setting, fewer people than usual wandered the streets, raising questions about the cause. She explained his efficiency drove others away, finishing quests so quickly that none remained for adventurers. Quina advised him to focus only on S-rank quests, befitting his current status and responsibility. He listened carefully, realizing that overdoing easy quests meant robbing lower-ranked adventurers of crucial income. Even so, he wondered if neglected tasks deserved attention, especially when nobody else would accept them. She encouraged finding balance, clearing high-tier quests first, then handling low ones when it felt appropriate. At a local shop, Zeed admired strange glowing stones, learning they were practical tools using magic. Magic tools served many roles, some for daily life, others equipped as weapons in dangerous situations. While inspecting them, he admired their glow, curious how they'd function during real combat or emergencies. Purchasing one seemed possible, but handling money wisely remained a problem he never properly learned to solve. Quina reminded him that image, spending, and behavior should reflect dignity expected from an S-rank adventurer. He agreed, realizing reputation mattered, and decided it was time to choose his own weapon. After receiving permission, he browsed various weapons, but instinctively felt that only a sword suited him. Swinging the practice sword unleashed a powerful shockwave, unintentionally destroying part of the shop in seconds. Smoke and debris settled as everyone stared in silence. Embarrassed, he offered to pay for damages. Sitting outside, he reflected on the disaster, discouraged by his failure to complete a simple purchase. Watching quietly nearby, Quina sighed, realizing how much pressure weighed on him despite his cheerful appearance. Offered a simple meat skewer. He accepted it hesitantly, unsure what to expect from street food. After a single bite, his eyes widened with joy. The taste far exceeded his expectations completely. Savoring every bite, he praised the flavor, overwhelmed by genuine happiness from something so small. Everything felt unfamiliar but comforting, a world far removed from hardship, filled with warmth and new possibilities. Grateful for her kindness, he promised to rely on her as they continued forward together. Excitement filled his voice as he imagined the possibilities awaiting him as a full-fledged adventurer. Sudden beeping from the guild card interrupted their conversation. It was a summons with urgent significance. A swarm of monsters had been detected, prompting an emergency subjugation mission for available high-rank adventurers. Reading the details, he quickly decided to accept, knowing refusal would lead to guild penalties. Despite his swift agreement, Quina questioned whether traveling that far was really necessary for him. He expressed deep gratitude to the guild and promised to respond to every emergency call. Although he laughed it off, Quintana's gaze showed she clearly didn't trust his self-restraint yet. Worried about leaving him alone, she boldly declared she'd accompany him on the upcoming mission. Confidently prepared, he rushed out without realizing how far the destination was, or where it even lay. Quina explained travel arrangements, reminding him that the guild would cover expenses, including their carriage fare. A carriage awaited them, prepared for travel, and their destination involved meeting someone important. Inside the carriage, thoughts turned to Solia Aiden, whose actions shaped their current peaceful lives. With a shout from the driver, the carriage departed swiftly, pulled by galloping horses. As wheels rolled forward, he wondered about monsters, knights, and his upcoming dangerous rank task elsewhere. A military meeting was held to assess border deployment between two tense regions. Zaid and his companion prepared to board the carriage bound for the Holy Republic capital. Inside the carriage, thoughts drifted to Solia Aiden, the saint who changed their fates. With reins pulled tight, the carriage dashed ahead, wheels rolling toward danger and uncertain encounters. Zaid quietly wondered what monsters awaited, while recalling fellow knights still engaged in distant battles. Meanwhile, Ronde led a war council, confirming Third Company's position near the Holy Republic border. They finally reached the Holy Republic, eyes fixed on the towering statue of Asti ahead. Crowds filled the Grand Plaza as Z devoured local meat skewers, impressed by the flavor. Even among other adventurers, Zed's enthusiasm and appetite made him a noticeable presence in the gathering crowd. With registration underway, Quina led Zed through the long line toward the mission assignment tent. Their arrival surprised officials. Recognizing Quina instantly, her presence promised strength and raised hopes for success. Zaid revealed his guild card, shocking the registrar by holding an official S-rank certification. Whispers filled the room as adventurers realized Zaid's identity, stunned by his unexpected presence. He struggled with the growing attention, unsure how to react as strangers praised him with admiration. Quina questioned his understanding of fame. Zaid admitted the recognition still felt strange and overwhelming. With briefing complete, the party received their mission: subjugate monsters in the northern forests near the Republic. Magic communication rings were distributed, allowing leaders to receive instructions during the coordinated subjugation mission. Quest mechanics explained teamwork, combining strength allowed even low-rank adventurers to face high-risk threats together safely. Zaid remembered similar operations during his night days, feeling familiar with the well-organized subjugation strategy structure. Adventurers would regroup afterward to receive rewards. Certificates would mark participation and validate their successful contribution. With no questions asked, everyone cheered loudly as the massive expedition was officially set in motion. The northern forest loomed beyond the Republic's walls, marking the designated area for the subjugation mission. Marching together, excitement filled Zaid, while Quina regarded his enthusiasm with mild disbelief at his behavior. Veteran adventurers soon appeared, their presence radiating strength and experience, further raising expectations for the coming battle. Despite appearances, Quina explained the calm demeanor stemmed from overconfidence, not genuine readiness for the mission. Only 100 adventurers gathered, far fewer than usual, leaving Quina unsettled about the unusual turnout. Quina revealed fewer adventurers appeared because someone had already cleared most available quests beforehand. Reflecting on his actions, Zaid admitted his recklessness caused unnecessary trouble during their journey together. He then encouraged everyone to think about the bigger picture while acting more responsibly in groups. Still, immediate tasks mattered most, so Zaid prepared himself and the others for the mission. With the signal given, adventurers rushed forward, clashing with monsters as the subjugation battle finally began. Zaid calmly observed while others finished their strikes, ensuring the front line held firm against monsters. Quina unleashed a blazing sword technique, cutting through enemies with overwhelming force, leaving flames in her wake. Her blade sliced down several monsters swiftly, and Zaid realized her incredible strength through direct combat. While she questioned his hesitation, Zaid admitted he avoided fighting so adventurers could profit from spoils. Explaining further, he expressed responsibility, hoping his restraint allowed others opportunities to earn money fairly. Observing from behind, Zaid admired how adventurers cooperated freely without coercion, creating a refreshing atmosphere. Quina reminded him of their responsibility as guild members, urging participation in the ongoing monster subjugation. A sudden ambush targeted Quina, and for a moment, danger loomed as the monster attacked. Zaid finally intervened, unleashing overwhelming strength to destroy the threat instantly, shocking nearby adventurers with his power. Relieved and grateful, Quina thanked him sincerely, while others realized Zaid's strength came with humility and consideration. Adventurers fought bravely across different areas, while Zaid considered the involvement of nearby knight companies. Realization struck as he recognized the knights of Kuzela Kingdom, allies assisting in this mission. Memories surfaced of past assignments when he had occasionally been dispatched alongside the Third Company. Although not ideal, alliances between Guild, Kingdom, and Republic formed a necessary defense against growing threats. Thoughts drifted toward Sheila, a comrade from his knight days, whose safety still concerned him deeply. Zaid noticed her concern for Knight's situation, realizing her field experience was still somewhat limited. Kutwena pointed out his honesty, reminding him to decide firmly whether he's knight or adventurer now. She urged focus on the urgent quest, while Zaid reassured her with quiet confidence. Despite distractions, his overwhelming strength guaranteed safety, even against sudden monster assaults during their mission. Annoyed but amused, Zaid dispatched another beast casually, joking about its body part as spoils. After defeating most monsters, a strange fragment was discovered, glowing faintly with hidden magical power. Curiosity grew as Quina wondered about its effect, while Zaid recognized it as message dispatch magic. Urgent news followed, revealing the Holy Republic Knights stationed west had been completely annihilated. Adventurers were immediately summoned to reinforce the western front, forcing Zaid and Quina to rush. Upon arrival, devastation awaited them, countless fallen knights covering the battlefield, leaving only silence and despair. Zaid and Quina stood stunned as destruction stretched below, a battlefield filled with motionless soldiers. Descending the hill, they discovered a massacre. The Holy Republic's knights had already fallen without resistance. A wounded soldier begged for help. Just then, something massive burst from the ground behind him. Dark shadows erupted without warning. Zaid leapt forward alone, startling both allies and surviving soldiers. With bleeding arms and unwavering calm, Zaid ordered the others to retreat, while he fought alone. Quenta approached the survivor, confused how elite knights could fall without leaving a serious fight behind. Monsters stronger than anything before stormed the battlefield, tearing through trained warriors without facing resistance. Quenta questioned their control. Could anyone command beasts strong enough to overwhelm an elite knight force? Zaid examined untouched corpses, deducing the monsters obeyed orders rather than acting on primal hunger. The survivor added that Kuzelia's knights were also attacked and unable to offer any reinforcements. Uncertainty clouded Quina's thoughts as she faced Zaid, still unable to grasp the unfolding situation. Without hesitation, Zaid activated detection magic, determined to locate the threat and uncover what remained hidden. Energy spread outward. His scan extended past natural limits, reaching even the distant border with Kuzela Kingdom. Tracing monster movements, he confirmed one focal point. All creatures were converging toward a single, distant location. Amid the chaos, one figure commanded monsters while another relaxed confidently, clearly orchestrating events from afar. Zaid confirmed no monsters surrounded Kuzela's knights, raising suspicions about their convenient lack of resistance. While holding a familiar fragment, he recalled the magic aura it emitted during a past encounter. It was a summoning device, designed to attract monsters, one that should have been forbidden long ago. He explained how the knights forced him to carry it, using him as live bait. Before Quina could respond, a flash erupted. Zaid vanished ahead, leaving her momentarily stunned. Quina called out, but Zaid had already launched himself forward without hesitation, vanishing from her sight, charging ahead. He imagined the contrast: one soldier used as bait, while others relaxed far behind. A confident grin formed as he visualized the situation, already grasping the enemy's dirty strategy clearly. Cliffs echoed with roars. The fleeing soldiers struggled to escape as monstrous forms closed in relentlessly. Suddenly, something blurred overhead. Eyes widened as a figure descended with incredible speed from above. Startled by a sudden step, the enemy soldier froze, realizing someone had landed directly behind him. Zaid clapped calmly while bodies fell nearby, his tone firm as he demanded an honest explanation back at camp. News reached the others. Shock followed the realization that Kuzela Knights were involved. Holding the evidence, Zaid presented the decoy magic item used to lure monsters with precision. Exposed before everyone, the captive knight faced judgment for triggering the ambush through deliberate betrayal. Tension lingered as Zaid explained the truth, acknowledging how difficult this raid story was to accept. Soldiers welcomed a newcomer into the tent, but urgency in Zaid's expression cut through formality instantly. Gasps followed a commanding voice as a priestess arrived, demanding to treat the wounded immediately. A sudden monster outbreak alarmed the guild. Breeding season hadn't even started near the Holy Republic. Despite the mystery, Solia urged immediate rescue efforts, demanding to know the location of the wounded. As Zaid entered the tent, he locked eyes with the priestess standing calmly inside. Soldiers rushed to greet her with reverence, confirming to Zaid that this was Solia. Recognizing her saintly aura, Zaid recalled she once vouched for his rank advancement to the guild. Zaid realized her calm presence came from experience. Even he felt nervous standing beside Solia. Acknowledging her past help, Zaid decided gratitude could wait. Healing the wounded mattered far more. Inside the tent, Solia quietly supported an injured knight, responding calmly as whispers followed her arrival. Without hesitation, Solia entered the treatment tent and prepared to begin healing those most critical first. After tending everyone, Solia smiled and reassured them all that no lives had been lost. Trouble still lingered. Solia and Quina suspected the Kuzela Knights arrived for a different reason. Valan Sudi introduced himself calmly, claiming their region was secure and offering assistance without hesitation. His dramatic entrance drew glances. Despite his politeness, something felt performative behind his exaggerated sympathy. With mocking words, Valan confronted Zaid, questioning his loyalty and accusing him of greed-driven betrayal. Ignoring the insult, Zaid greeted him with composure, refusing to be rattled by cheap provocation. Rather than argue, Zaid steered the conversation back. Valan twisted it, trying to provoke again. Solia interrupted firmly, asking about the monster attack. Valan shifted demeanor, bowing with sudden courtesy. She revealed a detained subordinate, confessed to attacking the Holy Republic Knights, using forbidden magic evidence in hand. Solia pressed him for answers. The item summoned monsters into their camp. Realizing the cover was blown, Valan remained calm. He never expected that soldier to survive. Feigning detachment, Valan blamed insanity. His words shocked the others, who sensed something wasn't right. He claimed innocence, calling the incident tragic. Zaid watched silently, already suspecting deliberate manipulation beneath politeness. Challenged by a younger knight, Valan dismissed the accusation, asserting no one would believe a subordinate. He grinned smugly, twisting words into arrogance. His confidence in manipulation echoed through the tense silence. To maintain control, he agreed to confront the subordinate directly. Solia insisted on immediate action. Bound and kneeling, the subordinate stared up, realizing Valan planned to use him completely. While manipulating the situation, Valan demanded a false confession. Others watched, growing tense from his pressure. Silence persisted. The subordinate trembled as Valan exploded, revealing contempt through threats and demeaning words. Tension rose further. Solia's voice cut in, warning that Valan's behavior had clearly crossed a line. Despite rising panic, the accused began resisting. Valan insisted on obedience, masking threats with a twisted smile. Threats turned cruel. Valan invoked the subordinate's family, forcing a choice under unbearable emotional pressure. Witnesses looked on with disgust. The knight's reputation for cruelty hadn't changed after all this. Broken by fear, the subordinate finally confessed, echoing Valan's words with mechanical, defeated hesitation. Before the full confession finished, Valan struck. The sword silenced him, mid-sentence, in brutal fashion. His death was declared just. Those in charge labeled him irredeemable, and justice was denied. Valan justified the execution coldly, claiming it honored fallen knights and punished an incompetent subordinate. Despite Solia's protest, Valan insisted authority over his soldier, declaring the matter closed without remorse. He offered a mocking farewell. Zaid and Quina stood firm, shielding Solia from further insult. Silence fell as Valan exited. All present stared at the aftermath, Processing the brutal scene, Zaid broke the silence. With sharp intent, he asked if everything had been secretly recorded. He released the illusion spell while Quina activated the image, recording artifact to capture everything. The illusion's realism stunned everyone. Even the soldier mistook it for Zaid's real body at first. With the evidence gathered, Quina praised Zaid's efforts in revealing the enemy's conspiracy against their nation. Though overwhelmed by gratitude, Zaid remained humble, earning admiration from Quina and surprising everyone with his modesty. Just as things calmed, a new announcement summoned all adventurers to report back for debriefing. Quina declared the mission complete, leaving political consequences to authorities while adventurers awaited their reward. Zaid agreed calmly, unaware that events unfolding in Kuzela's night headquarters would shift everything again. Valen entered the meeting room unprepared, surprised to find the commanders waiting with grim expressions. Confused by their tone, Valen questioned the accusation, unaware of the scale of his mistake. The commanders revealed the Holy Republic's protest, blaming Valen's actions for diplomatic collapse and internal confusion. Footage from the Holy Republic revealed Valen's disgraceful attack on nothing more than illusion mist. A's panic grew. Commanders exposed his blunder and mocked the humiliating evidence he had unknowingly created. Desperately, Valen insisted someone else held the item, but consequences were already closing in on him. Kuzela faced demands for justice and offered him a cruel choice between ransom payment or execution. Others nearby whispered suspicions about embezzlement, noting how quickly he sacrificed subordinates to cover his tracks, faced with pressure and shame. Ronde proposed a drastic measure as the last option remaining. He ordered deployment of a forbidden tool, the slave's collar. Excluding officers from the Third Company, Shiera recognized it immediately, a banned item that stripped all bodily control from its victims. Without remorse, the commanders confirmed installation on 2 companies, delighting in its swift completion and horrifying capabilities. Early trials proved horrifyingly effective. Controlled knights kept fighting even with fatal wounds or missing limbs. Talk of betrayal and greed set the stage for a bold and reckless war strategy. Plans were drawn to attack both nations, despite limited forces and uncertain loyalty among the ranks. Shiraz suddenly raised her weapon, interrupting the meeting, her silent defiance shocking everyone into silence. She condemned her father's cruelty, declaring her intent to stop the repeated cycle of injustice. Before her words could cut deeper, he intercepted her blade without hesitation, eyes sharp with judgment. Shiraz's attack failed. She was swiftly struck down, unable to match her father's brutal strength. Her resolve shattered as he lectured her coldly, blaming her weakness for the defeat and pain. Held tightly, she trembled while others watched in disbelief, fury rising at the merciless treatment she endured. Zaid rushed into the office, urgently asking Leaf about the missing Kuzela Knight's location. Leaf, caught off guard, admitted the guild lacked intel, but questioned Zaid's sudden interest in them. Unease lingered in Zaid's voice as he recalled recent chaos involving the Holy Republic's incident. Their conversation was interrupted when Quina entered, reminding them the situation exceeded the guild's jurisdiction and authority. She warned Zaid sternly, one mistake could entangle innocent adventurers and threaten the guild's reputation. Zaid wrestled with guilt, believing the knight's situation worsened ever since he had abandoned them. Lif, smiling gently, suggested helping Quina with a dangerous subjugation quest near the kingdom's border. She hinted that knights were seen nearby, implying Zaid might coincidentally uncover something during their mission. Quina protested loudly, misunderstanding the assignment as criticism toward her skill and readiness for solo tasks. Lif calmly explained the valley's danger, reminding them of the wounded B-rankers who previously failed there. Supportively, Zaid offered to give Quina all the points, but she quickly rejected the idea. Rather than backing down, she warned him not to interfere since this mission belonged to her. Acknowledging her feelings, he smiled genuinely, agreeing to her terms and expressing thanks for letting him join. From Lif's perspective, Quina still had much to learn and could benefit by observing Zaid's combat methods. Quiet determination filled her thoughts no matter what. She needed to grow stronger through her own means. Lif watched the door close, acknowledging the truth in Zaid's resolve with a quiet smile. Elsewhere, at the heart of the capital, the Knight's headquarters stood silently, hiding mounting tensions inside. Overlooking the city, Ronde was approached by Valen, signaling the start of something far more serious. Discussion turned to strategy. Heidi had already mobilized the second company under her command for critical deployment. Their plan neared completion. Forced labor accelerated progress, enabling a surprise assault at dawn without suspicion. Randy smirked at the plan. Use slave collars to control civilians and crush neighboring resistance. From the rooftop, they watched the city unaware, believing tomorrow would shift the entire world's balance. Valen recalled seeing Zaid in the Holy Republic's camp, prompting bitterness from those left behind. Disdain filled Randy's voice as he insulted Zaid's loyalty, accusing him of abandoning everything for money. Changing the topic, Valen asked about Randy's daughter, but the answer drifted off without real clarity. A report came in one group had been deployed to Kuzela for monster extermination operations. Above the canyon skies, wyverns circled as the adventurers below prepared to face overwhelming aerial numbers. Shira gave commands without hesitation, holding her stance while rallying comrades to support her defensive position. As the beast charged, swords were raised and tension spiked the moment of contact had arrived. Without flinching, Shira struck fast and hard, unleashing a devastating blow that floored the monster instantly. One soldier fell as wyvern's dove, surrounding the party. Shira immediately assessed the spiraling battlefield threat. With swift precision, she launched upward, scattering fragments while her gaze locked onto the airborne monsters. Rather than hesitate, Shira sprinted forward, cutting through the confusion, while her allies scrambled to defend themselves. Momentum carried her into the sky, blade drawn, closing the gap between her and the wyvern. Spinning midair, she unleashed a deadly slash, severing the creature as cries of alarm rang below. Despite her injury, Shira stepped forward again, determined to hold off enemies without collapsing completely. Early brutal orders were issued: return by sunset or die. She had no choice but lead. Confidence masked fear as she resolved to defeat every wyvern and break free from control. Fury surged within. Breaking the collar meant freedom, not just for herself, but to stop her father elsewhere. Zaid and Quina discovered a bisected wyvern. Its precision stunned them both into silence. Zaid suddenly dashed forward, urgency burning in his steps as something ominous pulled at his instincts. Ignoring questions, he shouted, Shira. And the knights were injured, panic shaking his voice and focus. Shock spread among the soldiers as they froze, unsure of how to react or respond. Breathing ragged, Shira barely stood, sword trembling as fatigue dragged her limbs toward collapse once more. She struggled to hold back tears, silently pleading while questioning how long the battle had lasted. Wyvern soared above as she admitted, ignoring reality. Once satisfied just being vice commander, regret clouded his thoughts. Both realized too late they should have acted before everything escalated. Swinging her sword with resolve, she vowed to fight so no one else suffers again. Eyes locked ahead, Shira prepared herself for what must be done, ignoring calls behind her. Shira's injury shocked the knights. Their faces froze as fear and disbelief gripped their hearts completely. Just ahead, Shira faced the monster alone, while comrades hesitated, fearing they'd only slow her down. Each movement burned her body, but she pressed forward, knowing losing focus meant certain death here. Leaping into action, she struck first, slicing through the beast's open jaw before it retaliated. Without pause, Shira launched upward again, cutting another down, declaring through gritted teeth there were 3 remaining. A monster's sudden strike forced the knights back. Shira staggered, pain shooting sharply through her leg. Refusing to collapse, she steadied her breath. Even injured, she raised her sword with unwavering resolve. Before she could fall, Zaid rushed in. His arrival cut through the chaos like lightning. Despite exhaustion, Shira gave everything. Sword raised high, she struck down the beast, shielding her allies from danger. Zaid caught her gently as she collapsed, whispering relief while Quina approached, observing her bravery in silence. Charging recklessly with only 5, the knights underestimated the danger. Concern and regret shadowed every returning step. Around Shira's neck, Zaid noticed a faint string. It pulsed faintly, clearly a forbidden magical device. Touching the collar triggered a reaction. Zaid hesitated as others warned him not to proceed further. Despite protest, the knight yanked Shira away. Pain burst through her body as magic violently resisted their interference. Only a graze nearly killed her. Many before had died, simply trying to remove cursed collars by force. Zaid uncovered the truth. Rande had manipulated them, using collars to control movements and force obedience. Unable to protect Shira while completing orders, the knights faced a deadly dilemma imposed by cursed magic. Trusting Zaid, they handed Shira over. He promised treatment and to investigate safe collar removal. Kunina warned him to stop. Interfering further would cross boundaries and break protocol for a licensed adventurer. At the guild, Zaid's resignation shocked the master. His decision marked the beginning of deeper defiance. To avoid implicating the guild, Zaid offered his resignation, understanding the consequences of his next actions. The guildmaster quickly connected everything to Shira, questioning Zaid's motives and future plans after leaving. Determined to intervene, Zaid declared his goal: stop the knights before they could attack innocents. Accusations followed. If he acted alone, would he confront their base or commit acts of violence? Lif warned him firmly. Moving first would label him a criminal before the truth could surface. The guildmaster urged caution, questioning whether Zaid's resignation was truly necessary to resolve the issue. Zaid explained that inaction meant more harm. Standing idle under guild rules wouldn't help the situation. Before anyone responded, Shira entered unexpectedly, her condition frail, yet her expression filled with quiet determination. Despite injuries, she stood tall. As vice commander, she formally submitted a mission request to intervene. Her voice trembled slightly, pleading to end her father's tyranny. She condemned the Kuzela Knights' actions. Kukwina immediately classified the matter as an S-rank request, elevating it to top priority. Shira revealed everything she knew. Slave-collared knights would lead a surprise invasion from a newly built base. The room grew tense. Strategic maps confirmed a planned assault. Two nations stood moments away from conflict. At sunrise, Valansuti's unit would strike the Holy Republic. Rande's forces would seize Kuzela directly. Simultaneously, Heidi Kraw's second company would trigger coordinated revolts inside the capital, spreading chaos throughout critical locations. Plans included enslaving Kuzelan citizens using collars, then sending them as reinforcements for future invasions. Zaid asked about removing collars. Lif noted Holy Republic's pacifism would make resistance difficult regardless. Lif explained domination magic. Collar wearers obey the caster's will through linked items functioning as conduits. Shira's mission had been clear subjugate monsters, then return by sunrise or face the collar's punishment. Slave collars functioned through magic. Larger commands or multiple subjects drained immense power from the caster in control. Lif suspected the collar's activation depended on nearby monsters, limiting its effect to situational triggers. Because the item was forbidden, even she lacked detailed knowledge about disrupting its core structure. Testing methods involved risk. Attempting force had only tightened Shira's collar, proving how dangerous direct action was. Shira revealed nearly every knight wore a collar, excluding only the upper commanders and key squad leaders. Destroying those leaders' control items would sever the effect. Each carried one, granting full command over others. People gathered with determination, planning to destroy the magic items controlling the knights' slave collars. Two volunteers immediately accepted the dangerous mission, stepping forward to take on the urgent request themselves. Kukwena was entrusted with leading adventurers, targeting the second company's commander to destroy the controlling artifact. Due to the collar's limit, Shira had to return before sunrise, joining Zaid's mission instead. With assignments divided, the group prepared for battle. Only the third company remained as the final threat. Leaf confidently volunteered to handle the third company, determined to contribute despite the overwhelming task. Preparations advanced quickly as everyone mobilized, organizing into teams and setting out from the compound's gate. With steeled resolve, each group parted ways, heading to their designated battlefields without hesitation or doubt. Zaid promised to handle everything at the base, knowing Shira shouldn't witness more suffering firsthand. Since the request came from her, Shira insisted on seeing the urgent mission through personally. Teams prepared for action, focused on destroying the master slave collar item before sunrise's deadline. With resolve and unity, they launched the mission, determined to end control over the knights. Lif launched into motion, targeting the distant third company with determined urgency and silent resolve. She divided responsibilities, assigning guards to protect the wealthy as they prepared for larger movements. Time raced toward dawn. Kuina coordinated teams, urging swift communication through guild cards and designated checkpoints. Zaid carried Shiera effortlessly, assuring her despite the bumpy ride and weight of looming danger ahead. Together with their allies, Zaid and the others charged forward, ready to confront the unfolding threat. Valen grinned under the calm sky, unaware chaos would shatter the peace within hours. Across the city, Zaid and Shiera sensed rising danger while a powerful man declared his dark ambition. Buildings trembled from distant blasts. Shiera apologized, blaming herself for the knight's failure and her past cowardice. Zaid reassured her gently, reminding Shiera that her courage had inspired his decision to leave the Knight Order. Grateful for her support, Zaid promised to complete the mission and protect what she defended. Shiera smiled softly and thanked him, her voice trembling beneath the weight of growing tension. Heavy footsteps brought Zaid to a clearing where countless armored soldiers stood in silent formation. Spotting the Knight formation, they realized a swift march meant they'd chosen the shortest, most direct path. An unnatural force overtook the frontline knights, compelling movement without command as Zaid stepped forward cautiously. Frozen energy erupted from below, encasing their bodies completely, while voices screamed the name, Ice Prison. Restraining the frozen soldiers, Zaid apologized briefly and advanced carefully, ensuring Shiera remained safe in arm. Despite the danger, the knights smiled, urging him onward, and entrusting everything to his strength and resolve. With tightened grip, he pressed forward silently. Behind him, Shiera's gaze remained filled with quiet determination. The path cleared through the ice, and their advance resumed with renewed urgency and unwavering shared resolve. At the castle, Quina commanded the search, reminding everyone failure meant consequences beyond dishonor. Criminal judgment awaited. Heidi Crow welcomed the late visitor arrogantly. Seated confidently and prepared to confront any accusation, Quina demanded the item controlling slave collars, challenging Crow's authority and pressing toward justice without hesitation. Unbothered, Crow armed himself calmly, asserting that avoiding combat had nothing to do with personal weakness. Meanwhile, relaxed knights nearby chatted casually, unaware of the tension rising as dangerous orders moved quietly into motion. After finishing his meal, Valen declared his plan: begin the Holy Republic's destruction without further delay. A small figure descended rapidly, catching everyone's attention before calmly closing their book with perfect timing. Appearing with confidence, the newcomer smirked, ready to confront the one she had waited for. Standing unfazed, she faced the armored commander directly, ignoring his threats and responding with bold defiance. Rather than retreat, she offered peace in exchange for the magic item controlling slave collars. Panic spread as her knowledge was revealed. Soldiers yelled threats, surrounding her with blades and deadly intent. As soldiers charged, Lif extended her hand, silently deciding to act once negotiation was impossible. A massive windstorm exploded outward, scattering enemies in all directions with force they couldn't comprehend. With precision strikes, she neutralized attackers instantly, then calmly complained about her hair tangling during battle. She warned the commander not to move, explaining his hands and feet were impaled by stakes. Nearby knights trembled in disbelief as the enemy collapsed, muttering in defeat that their world was over. Lif dismissed the enemy's ambition coldly, her expression unshaken as she declared their dream unreachable. A fierce clash ignited between Quina and Crow, both blades sparking as they tested resolve. Crow struck with relentless speed, deflecting incoming blows while forcing multiple opponents to retreat under sustained pressure. Quina intercepted his next move directly, refusing to back down, despite the overwhelming strength behind his assault. Crow mocked her confidence, but Quina responded with a searing strike, landing a critical blow through his guard. Crow offered wealth, rank, and comfort, attempting to lure her with power and degrading flattery. He painted illusions of luxury and status, describing mansions and influence to sway her loyalty easily. Unmoved by his charm, she charged forward, openly rejecting his manipulative words and disgusting proposal. Crow countered swiftly, sword raised in defense, but her glare revealed fury far beyond hesitation. Without restraint, she landed a fierce punch across his jaw, calling him out for his depravity. Quina stood firm, rejecting luxury and wealth, declaring her sword as the only thing necessary. Crow screamed in agony as the collar device shattered, ending his control over the captured slaves. Without hesitation, she stepped forward, towering above him, mocking his failure with unshaken eyes and burning pride. He laughed weakly through blood, predicting the downfall of Kuzela should their first company begin marching. Unfazed by his threat, she met his glare and calmly declared their side would never lose. Carrying her in his arms, he rushed forward without hesitation. Her trust placed in his strength, eyes lit up with clarity. She spotted the target, pointing him in the right direction immediately. Tents came into view ahead. Their destination was close, but danger still loomed behind their backs. A violent explosion shook the ground, dust rising as enemies closed in with overwhelming magical force. Rand stepped forward with a confident grin, announcing retraining time as tension crackled in the air. Zaid drifted through the snowy night, burdened by the guilt of saving a troubled girl. Shiera's rebellion stunned her father, who now saw betrayal where he once placed his deepest trust. Rand raised his blade high, furious that Zaid dared challenge the authority he once submitted to. He flew backward from the blow, rubble shattering around him as Rande launched a furious counterattack. Though Zaid evaded death again, Rande mocked him, demanding he fight instead of endlessly dodging each strike. Shiera clutched her side and nodded, concerned for Zaid after the fierce exchange with Rande. Zaid assured her of his safety, but sensed something unnatural about Rande's overwhelming power surge. They realized Rande wore a forbidden magic item, enhancing his strength far beyond normal human capability. Rande lunged again, shouting violently, forcing Zaid to guard desperately against another devastating earth-shaking attack. Hovering above the smoke, Rande smirked arrogantly, confident his brutal lesson had been thoroughly delivered. Smoke cleared as Zaid rose steadily, while Shiera watched in shock, hands trembling near her head. She stepped forward and begged her father to stop. Unable to bear witnessing more senseless violence, Rande shouted in denial, unable to comprehend her words, recalling the past when ideals once burned. Years ago he proudly revealed the magic item's power, claiming victory and admiration from young recruits. Justifying everything, he mocked the dangers, declaring mastery over the item, made sealing it unnecessary. Confident in their rising status, the aspiring knights believed promotion was already within their reach. Fueled by ambition, they vowed to expand Kuzil's power and reshape the continent's balance of strength. Plans to invade the Holy Republic surfaced, disguised as patriotic goals beneath casual fireside conversation. Their appointment came swiftly, rewarded by a king eager to see results from their dangerous potential. With war imminent, they received orders to provoke conflict under the guise of diplomatic escort duty. Vowing absolute loyalty, the knights pledged to protect their mission, even if it meant certain death. At the royal court, leaders announced peace efforts, shocking those expecting an imminent military campaign. Confused by the sudden change, a knight stared blankly. Unable to grasp the unexpected diplomacy, clarity returned when harsh truths were spoken. Those with strength who neglect change are truly the worst. Fury erupted as a powerful strike landed, condemning Kuzela's corruption with action rather than empty words. Fists flying, Zaid condemned hollow duties, monster hunts, royal escorts, tasks unworthy of empowered warriors' strength. He hurled accusations, exposing greed behind foreign invasions, disguised as noble service to the kingdom's glory. Rande charged ahead, preaching power's responsibility, declaring dominance as a sacred duty passed through generations. Looming with his blade, he demanded Shiera understand, claiming righteous cause justified cruelty and destruction. Tears welled as she rejected his logic, unable to accept pain as rightful duty. Tears falling, Shiera shouted her rejection, denouncing his obsession with power and empty material goals. Rande dismissed her words, claiming survival proved righteousness where only the last one standing mattered. As he raised his sword, hesitation flickered, and an unexpected impact halted his movement mid-swing. A powerful blow struck cleanly, disarming Rand, who stood frozen as shock widened across his face. Behind him, Zaid appeared mid-strike, sword raised high, having landed with perfect timing to protect Shiera. Shiera cried out as Zaid shielded her, while Rande roared in frustration, refusing to yield. With clenched fists, Rande challenged Zaid's ideals, questioning how nations could prosper without domination or greed. Zaid walked away calmly, stating power's purpose meant nothing if it only caused suffering and silent tears. His voice remained steady, declaring no path was right if it brought pain to innocent lives. Faced with unwavering resolve, Rande shouted in rage, preparing to attack and force his way through. A crushing blow landed as Zed shouted defiantly, refusing to let Rand pass or dominate. Driven by resolve, he stood firm and declared his intent to stop Rand for everyone's sake. Zed launched his punch with full force, determined to end the threat before more died. His blow landed cleanly, shattering Rand's jaw. Yet the man barely staggered from the powerful hit. Rand rose again, grinning through blood and cracked bone, refusing to fall, despite his ruined face. Shira noticed the collar glowing faintly. Rande's movements unnatural, forced beyond human will or pain. Driven by command, Rande laughed madly, declaring he'd fight without stopping until death claimed him. Rande roared furiously, rejecting defeat, and lunged forward with violent force toward the calm Zide. Air trembled as Zide remained still, quietly focusing, letting the storm pass without taking a step. Silence fell briefly. Rande's rage twisted into confusion as he stared at Zide's unwavering posture. Despite striking again, Rande's blade never landed. Each swing passed through Zide, unanswered and ineffective. Unable to understand, Rande grew desperate, questioning why nothing he did could touch Zed anymore. Rande screamed in fury, slamming forward with reckless strength, driven purely by instinct and uncontrollable rage. Although struck violently, Zed's body endured the blow as his gaze sharpened with unwavering focus. Extending one hand, he calmly approached, offering a final chance to end the pointless battle. Refusal came instantly, so Zed moved, invoking his technique, unleashing a clean, decisive strike in silence. Shira watched breathlessly as Zed's attack landed, finally breaking through and ending Rand's relentless rampage. Shock spread among the soldiers as every collar released, breaking the chains that once bound them. Cries of relief echoed across the battlefield as hundreds realized they had finally been freed. From above, Lif confirmed success, watching the joyful crowd erupt with praise for Zed and Shiera. Kuina smiled proudly, praising their perfect timing and acknowledging Zide's critical role in this victory. Standing over broken debris, he revealed the magic collar's destruction, ending the invasion's dark manipulation. Zide stood firm, declaring the collapse of Rande's ambitions with calm conviction and absolute finality. Weakened and defeated, Rande muttered broken fragments, clinging to a crumbling dream of national strength. His voice faltered mid-sentence, collapsing forward, as his energy drained completely from body and mind. Before further damage could occur, Shiera stepped in, embracing her father and halting his resistance. Despite heavy wounds and forbidden magic backlash, Rande survived, barely breathing, utterly defeated in every way. Shiera reflected quietly, recalling how her father's strength and love inspired her to become a knight. Memories of his pride when she graduated stayed with her, even as hardships later unfolded. Over time, she noticed disturbing changes in his behavior, and those he once commanded faithfully. Though conflicted, she accepted justice must be served, believing her father's actions required proper accountability. With tears falling, she apologized to Zide, finally freeing herself from the weight of truth. Shiera wiped her tears away, determined to move forward with purpose and unfinished responsibilities ahead. Together, they looked toward the horizon, standing side by side beneath the warming morning sky. A sudden voice called Zide's name, pausing him in step before she gently reached out. She expressed gratitude for everything: his strength, his choices, and saving her father from a darker path. Smiling brightly, Shiera thanked him with all her heart, her burdens lighter at last. 1 week passed after the coup, and Zide reflected quietly on all that changed. The kingdom disbanded its Knight Order, while Shura faced consequences alongside high-ranking officers under investigation. Although overlooked by the press, Quina loudly complained about her solo efforts receiving no recognition whatsoever. Liv sighed, explaining secrecy was necessary to prevent panic. Though she agreed, they earned significant gratitude. Despite tensions, the war had been avoided, and powerful new adventurers had joined their cause. A sudden visit interrupted the meeting as two unexpected figures entered the room confidently. Everyone turned in shock to see Shira smiling warmly, having arrived earlier than expected. With playful flair, her companion announced Shira's new status as a fresh adventurer among them. Shira explained her emergency request, taken to stop her father, costing more than she expected. She clarified her involvement, revealing participation in stopping the coup earned her full forgiveness. Shira explained her probation status and gratitude, now working to repay her debt through adventuring. Despite being new, she promised to help however possible, hoping to support others around her. Her sincerity was met with warm acceptance. Just as Quina suddenly remembered something urgent, Quina handed over a hidden article, dismissed it coldly, and left without giving explanations. Then Shira watched her leave with concern, puzzled by Quina's sudden change in behavior and tone. News of a new empress in Wayla Empire stunned them, revealing a sudden political shift. Quina's name echoed in their minds, her face firm with resolve under the weight of revelation. Shira walked through the guild grounds, eyes narrowing as she spotted Zeed cleaning the canal. Noticing her approach, Zeed turned in surprise. His chains clanked as she called his name. Shira questioned him. Zeed, half submerged, recalled both were summoned, though he'd forgotten amid his work. Back at the guild, villagers brought him food. Zeed explained. He'd cleaned the neglected waterways. While eating, he smiled. Shira praised him quietly, realizing S-rankers could still feel truly human. Zeed reflected on his status, wondering if he lacked the dignity expected from an S-ranker. Lif, the guildmaster, slammed documents down, furious at what she saw on record. She scolded him harshly, claiming drain work dishonored their guild's image among elite adventurers. Zeed, confused, asked why he'd been summoned. Lif smirked, revealing a special mission awaited him. As tension rose, Quina and Shira exchanged glances. Zeed stood puzzled, unaware of the coming challenge. Lif presented an important mission, requesting Zeed, Shira, and Quina to represent the guild officially. Responsibilities were distributed carefully. Shira, experienced in knightly service, would serve as bodyguard for vital guests. Quina was assigned a relic retrieval mission, with Zeed accompanying her toward the shared objective. Though curious about details, Zeed received little explanation. Lif emphasized caution and the mission's weight. Without hesitation, the three adventurers accepted the challenge, ready to carry the guild's trust forward. Lif warned him against using large-scale search magic. Its visibility might invite unwanted suspicion. Power came with perception. She reminded him that influence shaped how others would judge him. Sighing, she admitted most people couldn't understand strength. Managing it was harder than gaining it. Zeed and Quina headed off. The assignment marked their first high-level request in recent memory. Shira noticed a change. Zeed suspected the new Wayla Empire Empress article affected Quina deeply. Speculation grew. Shira and Zeed began suspecting Quina's identity might link to Wayla royalty. Attempts to approach her failed. Since that day, Quina had grown distant and unreadable. They reached the prohibited Kuzela ruins. Despite the tension, Zeed tried keeping the mood light. Ancient stone buildings loomed ahead. Zeed confirmed this was the site tied to their assignment. As the crowd gathered, Zeed noticed Quina avoiding him, unsure what caused the widening gap. A loud knight confronted Zeed, only to be ignored mid-sentence without receiving any response. Confusion spread across the gathered faces. No one recognized the eccentric warrior causing such commotion. Zeed confirmed his identity, puzzled by the stranger's exaggerated reaction and comments about appearance. The knight insisted on being a rival, claiming Zeed stood out among all adventurers. Shock hit him hard. Zeed's blank stare confirmed he truly had no idea who he was. Vieg Stilviets loudly declared himself royalty, the lightning blade. Demanding recognition as Zeed's destined rival, Zeed greeted him casually. Vieg, baffled by the sincerity, found the response too plain-hearted. Treeing to recover, Vieg promised to demonstrate divine strength, despite Zeed's superior adventurer rank. Their brief encounter ended awkwardly. Zeed turned to Quina, still troubled by her continued silence. Reflecting alone, he sighed. Every adventurer he met either fought him or avoided getting close. Tension lingered between them. Yet Zeed quietly hoped they could complete the mission without conflict. A mysterious ruin surfaced after a major earthquake, exposing ancient remnants sealed for generations underground. Investigators uncovered monster relics within, including rumored healing artifacts buried deep beyond sealed magical thresholds. Zeed listened carefully as warnings echoed about lingering traps and seals left by cunning monster forces. Each guild was instructed to reach the final chamber and retrieve the vital magical relic. With a chilling smile, the host dismissed them, urging caution before their perilous descent into darkness. Excitement surged as adventurers from every guild rushed forward, eager to conquer the ancient shrine. Zaid followed calmly, amused by the chaos, while his companion insisted on witnessing his power firsthand. Observers remained behind, wary of the traps and swarms of hidden monsters lurking below the ruins. Despite knowing their efforts were futile, adventurers pushed ahead, motivated by pride more than any reward. Secretly, the organizers hoped their 3-day struggle would preserve the illusion of a fair challenge. Zaid leapt forward, eliminating the threat in a single blow, astonishing his companion with sharp precision. His partner praised him, but Zaid pressed on, uninterested in resting or showing off strength deeper inside. New monsters emerged. Some adventurers panicked, their weapons melting, their confidence shattered by unknown horrors. Quina intervened effortlessly, dispatching monsters mid-charge, leaving the frightened adventurers stunned by her speed and strength. Without turning back, she warned them harshly, doubting their survival in what lay even deeper. She sprinted ahead, determined to surpass every rival before Zaid could even enter the ruins. Ambition burned inside her. Reaching the depths first would guarantee promotion and raise her standing instantly. Behind her, others struggled. Zaid, unfazed, pressed forward with unwavering stamina, confusing everyone with his calm. Some slowed down or took secret shortcuts. Others laughed nervously, pretending confidence as fatigue silently crept in. Zaid confidently pointed ahead, claiming his instincts guided them to the depths, surprising those relying on magic. Magic flared as Zaid explained his restraint, choosing a tunnel route after receiving directional help. A deep rumble echoed through the halls, startling scattered groups as walls trembled from underground activity. Quina sensed movement approaching quickly, unsure whether it was collapsing stone or something more dangerous advancing. Through the wall, Zaid and companions burst out, shocking everyone as debris scattered around them. Thrown midair from the impact, Quina landed hard, confused by the sudden shortcut crash arrival. Everyone plummeted into an enormous chamber, landing hard amidst stone debris and echoes from deeper below. Despite the fall, no injuries occurred thanks to soft ground. Relief spread briefly before silence returned. While others recovered, Quina walked ahead quietly. Her silence hadn't gone unnoticed by her closest ally. Zaid followed closely, sensing her unease. Questions stirred within him as her mood continued to darken. Something had changed after she read about Wayla Empire's empress. Her silence masked a deeper concern. Seeing the empress's face brought back memories Quina buried. She hated it, but resemblance lingered. She admitted what she'd hidden, her true identity as the previous emperor's daughter, long denied recognition. Luina, the current empress, was her half. Sister praise always followed Luina, while Quina faced mockery and scorn. Disgusted by favoritism and exile, she fled the castle, hoping strength would earn global recognition. Despite her attempt to dismiss the confession, Zaid responded firmly. Forgetting something that important was impossible. Zaid's sincere words grounded Quina, who realized her emotions had clouded her focus on the mission. Before she could respond, a call from ahead alerted them to the direction toward the depths. They arrived at a sealed chamber, its wall marked by powerful magic woven in complex patterns. Vi identified the seal immediately, revealing his hidden identity as the first prince of Stilviet's kingdom. Breaking it required altering magical flow precisely. With countless possibilities, even Quina hesitated before attempting a solution. Vieg warned against brute force. Tampering without solving would cause the magic to strike back. Despite protests, Zaid stepped forward, determined to try. Quina moved back, unsure but unwilling to stop him. Calmly placing both hands on the door, he poured in controlled magic, without hesitation or doubt. The seal reacted instantly. A surge echoed through the chamber, shaking the ground and silencing everyone nearby. Dust cleared as the gate crumbled. Zaid stood smiling, unfazed. Passage to the relic was open. They discovered a mysterious object resting ahead, matching the description of their request's hidden item. Despite confusion, they examined the water, realizing it belonged to a place Zaid once knew. Hearing this, the prince grew curious. How could someone survive in such a deadly region? They agreed. The healing water must be brought back. Containers were needed for safe transport. Bottles filled. The group approached another sealed gate, ready to advance deeper into unknown territory. Sudden light activated the runes, prompting a magical response that stunned and alarmed everyone. With tension rising, the air trembled ominously. As consequences of their intrusion began to unfold, a terrifying roar echoed. From the shadows, a monstrous creature emerged with violent force. Enemies rapidly surrounded them. Escape seemed impossible as more creatures joined the ambush without pause. With danger closing in, urgency grew. Everyone turned to Zaid, relying on his next move. They discovered a glowing pool, possibly the key to their search, drawing everyone's attention instantly. Examining the inscriptions, they confirmed the pond was part of the Forest of Taboo's depths. Questions arose about Zaid's past, having survived in a monster-filled zone no child should endure. The water's potent healing ability suggested monsters may have used it to recover after battles. Bottles were filled quickly, and the group prepared to leave before anything dangerous reappeared nearby. Monsters swarmed around them, but Zaid's order to run gave the group a sliver of hope. A sudden tremor disrupted their escape, confusion rising as people lost their balance and screamed in panic. Just as the monsters drew near, a giant man arrived carrying dozens stacked atop his shoulders. Charging forward without hesitation, he yelled not to look back as the monsters closed in. Reaching safety, Zaid unleashed his second form, freezing every monster and structure into a jagged ice prison. A monstrous creature emerged from the shadows, terrifying the unprepared adventurers who froze in fear instantly. Beyond the ruined entrance, they discovered a mysterious temple sealed in layers of ancient frozen magic. Tension rose as an examiner blamed Zaid's interference for ruining their carefully prepared trial and objectives. Quinta calmly explained they retrieved the true healing water from the depths, fulfilling the mission properly. Despite suspicion, she stood firm, insisting it wasn't a fake, and they reached the deepest chamber. A crazed man suddenly ran forward, shouting wildly while pointing at the stunned and confused Quina. He introduced himself as Various Madden, nervously praising Weeg with exaggerated compliments and unsettling devotion. Ignoring the others, Various focused entirely on Zaid, admiring his noble background and potential as a recruit. Quina grew annoyed, demanding attention, only to be dismissed by a mocking glance and harsh indifference. Without hesitation, he insulted her worth, calling her useless and ordering her to leave immediately. Cruel insults continued as Madden mocked her worth, declaring she should crawl after scraps like trash. A firm grip seized Madden's arm, stopping him cold, as Zaid intervened, without hesitation. Rather than raising his voice, Zaid demanded an apology for Quina's sake with quiet intensity. Madden shouted back, calling Zaid unworthy of rank, claiming those without noble blood should never stand equal. Quina dismissed the conflict, saying it wasn't worth her concern, while Madden smugly turned toward incoming rewards. Weeg stepped forward, declaring he would vouch for them, bringing the healing water back successfully. Reluctantly, the reward bags were handed over, though Madden acted suspiciously cheerful during the exchange. Zed noticed an inconsistency in weight and questioned the number of coins inside each pouch. Accusations triggered Madden's defense, loudly insisting his role as a priest in the Hero Guild proved innocence. Weeg, visibly fed up, refuted any guild connection, criticizing the disrespect shown toward adventurers and their work. After a pause, Madden awkwardly claimed the missing coins had simply fallen deep into his pocket. He swiftly distracted Weeg and redirected attention, returning the coins while trying to shift the topic elsewhere. Zaid crouched to verify the amount himself, confirming the total now appeared correct and untouched. With nothing left to prove, Quina suggested leaving, both exhausted and disappointed by the entire ordeal. Back at headquarters, their handler praised their success and acknowledged the effort behind completing the request. Everyone reacted with surprise upon hearing their mission was linked to selecting candidates for the hero party. Lif explained the historical meaning, describing those who stand against disasters to protect the world's people. Zaid questioned the timing, unsure any major threats existed, while Lif elaborated on selection prestige and fame. She continued that trials were held yearly, often disguised as normal quests for evaluation purposes. Quinta had suspected it all along, and they'd unknowingly represented their guild in this secret trial. Despite completing the mission, they were judged unfit for the hero party by the association's standards. Requirements favored noble, born adventurers with national recognition, leaving independent talents quietly excluded from consideration. Hearing that, Lif was shocked, realizing they were labeled as unworthy candidates from the beginning. Still smiling, Kuina accepted reality, choosing to aim for S rank through the guild's honest path. A sealed envelope was handed over, signaling another mission that might hold unexpected weight or importance. An official request from the Hero Association named Zaid and Kuina for preparatory duties at selection grounds. Lif suspected the association wanted to gather rejected candidates as backup support under another disguised role. Kuina disapproved of being listed without consent, but Lif offered to reject the request outright. Zaid agreed, seeing no harm if compensation and tasks were reasonable, and Lif considered the offer. Elsewhere, festivities continued while citizens celebrated, unaware the event's profits heavily supported the Hero Association's funding schemes. Zaid reviewed a report exposing Madden, a high-ranking figure within the corrupt adventurers guild. Kuina suggested heading to the central arena, where an important warrior selection would soon begin. They arrived at the sacred arena, a powerful symbol of the nation's strength and neutrality. He stood in awe, overwhelmed by the arena's massive scale and historical weight behind it. As they looked over the arena, Kuina explained it hosted tests for forming hero parties. A smug man mocked Zaid and Kuina, calling them lowly adventurers chasing unreachable prestige. Suddenly, chaos erupted. Officials reported that a tournament dragon had escaped and was nearing the arena. In response, soldiers panicked and were ordered to capture the dragon despite unprepared. Mismatched assignments, Zone Calm figure volunteered confidently, offering to help as part of his warm-up exercise. As Madden panicked, the man greeted Kuina, mistaking her for someone familiar before laughing it off. Kuina sensed his overwhelming strength, impressed he could stand unnoticed so close behind without detection. Madden praised him as 100 men's worth of power, welcoming him into the competition process. Crowds filled the arena as the long-awaited hero party selection ceremony officially began with excitement. From across the nation, elite warriors gathered, chosen through harsh trials to form the hero party. As festivities started, Zaid and Kuina reflected on what they knew about the corrupted guild. The Steel Beats Kingdom. The third Prince Weeg raised his hand and confidently stepped forward. Spectators recognized him instantly, though Kuina noted something unsettling behind his seemingly princely appearance and smile. He was chosen while others like her and Seed were suspiciously disqualified without clear justification. Zaid and Kuina listened as the announcer introduced the final contestant, sparking heightened curiosity and silence. This last warrior had crushed armies alone and slain countless rampaging beasts, earning unmatched legendary status. Bashna Ehrak was announced, standing tall as a commanding figure from the military, elite Vera Empire. Spectators gasped as attention shifted to a special guest, seated high above the main arena. Luina Vera, newly appointed empress, revealed herself calmly beneath her regal cloak, igniting a roaring reaction. Kuina stared silently at Luina's composed presence, shocked by her unexpected appearance and the crowd's excitement. Luina smiled as the grand arena filled with cheers. The hero selection tournament was beginning. Zaid and Kuina arrived at the center stage, watching as the crowd waited in anticipation. Inside a secluded room, Luina oversaw preparations, ensuring the forbidden magical device was ready to activate. The summoning circle ignited as Luina severed the connection, releasing a surge of power into view. Zaid stared toward Luina's balcony, realizing she still held grudges strong enough to shape this battle. From the summoning circle emerged a powerful presence, none other than the King of Dragons. Spectators watched in awe, as the rare royal dragon species revealed its terrifying, intelligent gaze. The beast roared and ascended, its massive form casting shadows across the stunned audience and officials. This final test required defeating the dragon. Only the strongest would earn a place among heroes. Zaid stepped forward without hesitation, shielding Kuina as the dragon's eyes locked onto them with menace. A heavy pressure filled the arena as the dragon's roar disrupted even the bravest combatant's stance. Realizing something was wrong, Zaid narrowed his eyes, sensing the dragon's behavior was no ordinary threat. Luina observed with interest, announcing the main event's start, as anticipation shifted into tension across the audience. Outside the arena, robed operators noticed their magic recording devices malfunctioning due to intense magical interference spreading outward. Suddenly, the dragon's massive figure rose above city rooftops, its presence no longer contained within the arena. Everyone remained unaware as the dragon loomed above, while new candidates were instructed to form ranks. Breaking news spread quickly. An invasion of dragons had just begun across the entire Holy Republic. Waves of dragons descended from the sky, their numbers overwhelming and direction aimed straight at the arena. Panic broke out instantly. Civilians rushed to evacuate while guards attempted to restore order in chaos. Kuchina clenched her fists, realizing the selection event had escalated into a kingdom-wide emergency battle. Zaid charged forward, urging Kuina to follow, determined to stop the dragon before more destruction unfolded. Calmly unsheathing his sword, a seasoned warrior stepped in, warning that the enemy was a royal dragon. Tensions rose fast as Zaid shouted to halt the fight, demanding a chance to speak first. He insisted negotiation was critical, fearing combat here would cause irreparable damage to civilians and surrounding structures. Convincing the others proved difficult, as orders to slay the dragon were already spreading among officials. Orders spread demanding the dragons be killed, while Kuina questioned continuing the hero selection in chaos. Nearby personnel were called to act. Zaid acknowledged the urgency but stayed fixed on his approach. Ignoring rising tension, he knelt calmly, speaking to the dragon, testing whether it could understand human language. He urged the creature to respond, hoping intellect matched its power, before conflict escalated beyond repair. Spectators watched in disbelief as Zed, facing death, still pleaded for peaceful dialogue over violence. Zaid proposed a deal, but the dragon refused, unwilling to stop the invasion without vengeance. With wings spread wide, it declared judgment, swearing to make its captors regret their actions forever. Processing the dragon's fury, Zaid reflected on its words, realizing this enemy wasn't mindless like others. A blade was raised again, this time with killing intent, ignoring Zaid's efforts to de-escalate the confrontation. While observing closely, Zaid noticed something unusual about the dragon's posture and its oddly restrained movement mid-threat. Upon closer look, the dragon's body revealed countless hidden scars, both fresh wounds and old injuries. Zaid questioned the origin, learning the dragon had been captured shortly before the selection ceremony began. Kuina doubted the claim, pointing out how rare and unlikely such a capture truly would be. Recollection surfaced. Basina had scouted the area earlier, confirming no dragon presence was detected beforehand. A sharp glare from Zaid demanded answers as suspicion toward Basina's real intent began to rise. Tension grew as quiet footsteps echoed nearby, drawing sharp attention from both Kunina and her companion. Emerging from the darkness, Luina demanded answers, her tone cold and presence filled with absolute authority. Disregarding excuses, she stepped forward, dismissing the confusion and conflict with a single, emotionless word. Commanding the room, Luina ordered all adventurers to stand down and withdraw from the arena immediately. Kuina's eyes widened in disbelief, recognizing Luina's voice and realizing her unexpected appearance had changed everything. A guard lashed out, demanding respect for Luina's name, as tension visibly escalated between sides. She turned calmly, commanding all broadcast devices to project the situation across the entire Holy Republic. Images of burning towns and panicked citizens revealed the scale of destruction caused by the dragon assault. With a triumphant smile, Luina declared her intention to expose the Republic's weakness to the entire world. Kuina rushed forward in outrage, demanding answers. Finally, realizing Luina's scheme had been set from the start. Fury burned in his eyes as he reminded the man not to speak so casually. Before them the captured dragon loomed, towering over a group of tense, heavily armed observers. Luina proudly declared her empire's power, vowing to show the world their unmatched might. She raised her arm toward the dragon, signaling its execution as birds circled ominously above standing firm. He shielded the dragon with his body, refusing to let it die. Surrounded by armed guards, she lowers her head as someone demands to know her name. Zaid steps forward without hesitation, declaring himself an adventurer from the guild, voice filled with defiance, amused by his bravery. She smirks coldly and commands him to disappear from her sight. Luina pointed with disdain, ordering Zaid's removal as if he were merely an unwanted obstacle. Zaid refused to back down, his voice firm as he rejected her demand without hesitation. Rather than fight, he urged negotiation with the Dragon King to prevent needless destruction for both sides. Standing before soldiers, Zaid criticized their misunderstanding, revealing the dragon's calm presence behind him as proof. She sneered coldly, declaring that strength must replace weakness if the Holy Alliance hoped to survive. Children ran for safety as Luina realized someone powerful had arrived to protect the defenseless people. She accused the Empire of exploiting the Holy Republic's weakness to justify armed military intervention. Questioning the Empress's presence, Quenya saw through the charade and exposed the Empire's hidden motives. The dragon's arrival underscored their fears. The Empire had stationed forces close, ready to invade, declaring boredom. Luina turned away, but Quenya rushed forward, drawing her blade with unwavering determination and fury. Queena's eyes widened as a sudden force surged, signaling an imminent attack from her opponent. A shockwave split the ground when Zaid intercepted the blow, shielding Quenya without hesitation. He gently moved her aside, assuring her safety while keeping focus on the enemy before them. Energy flared through his arm as Zaid struck forward, landing a clean hit against his attacker. Despite the blow, he remained calm, remarking on energy cost while keeping control of the situation. Luina ordered Basina to stop his rampage, accepting his apology while maintaining complete composure. With a cold expression, she instructed him to abandon the others alongside the captured dragon. Soldiers obeyed instantly as Basina moved, catching both allies and enemies off guard with his command. Lone Man panicked, pleading innocence, insisting he knew nothing and wouldn't reveal anything to the outside. No mercy was shown as Luina demanded swift results, prompting the crew to gather recording equipment. Zaid stepped forward without hesitation, warning they'd only be spared if they cooperated peacefully and completely. Basina called him out by name, stepping in with confidence as tension filled the silent air. Zaid denied the assumption, making clear he wasn't acting alone or starting the battle himself. A united front formed. Zaid, Quenya, and their allies swore to protect Dragon, Elf, and Kingdom. Basina scoffed at their resolve, mocking their inexperience while preparing to respond with overwhelming strength. Zaid declared his intent to pursue peace, willing to fight if it preserved everyone's lives. Without hesitation, Basina struck first, aiming directly at Zaid with overwhelming speed and violent precision. Blows clashed as both opponents exchanged strikes, neither giving ground despite the mounting physical pressure. Quenya cried out in fear as Zaid was launched backward, landing hard from the brutal blow rather than retreat. He rose again with fierce determination, eyes locked on the enemy ahead. Basina charged forward, questioning how long Zaid's magical defense could endure against sustained pressure. From the sidelines, concern rose as allies noticed Basina's massive blade glowing with concentrated magical energy. Gasps followed as his sword turned gold, a transformation signifying serious intent and overwhelming destructive potential. Zaid reacted instantly, leaping skyward as Basina's attack tore the ground apart beneath his last position. Basina scoffed, admitting his aim had missed due to rustiness, but he remained completely unfazed. Quenya staggered back, stunned by the sheer recklessness and force behind Basina's destructive sword strike. Warning filled the air as someone shouted Basina Arak, the Golden Swordsman, was an S-rank adventurer. Basina stood proudly. Once a slave, now recognized as a powerful and respected S-rank adventurer. Zaid faced Basina with sharp eyes, realizing the man before him had once been enslaved. A warrior remembered stories of Basina's golden blade, a sword feared for its terrifying sharpness. In a flash too fast to follow, Basina's strike split the air and overwhelmed opponents instantly. Zaid stood silently, processing the truth. Such a legend had quietly served the Empire in secret. Basina recalled the rare time he held the S-rank title among legendary adventurers long ago. While Zaid deflected praise, Basina insisted his strength wasn't ordinary despite the rough edges it bore. With a sudden strike, Basina tested Zaid's reflexes, calling him a monster in human form. Zaid's fists clenched in anger, questioned Basina's decision to invade the Holy Republic without just cause, warning of sorrow ahead. Zaid countered fiercely, declaring that Basina was no longer who he was. Rank title meant nothing to him. Now he called it glorified labor for someone disposable. Tired of that lowly life, he swore allegiance to power, status, and the ruling empire. No longer bound by public approval, he rejected requests unfit for his ambition or loyalty. He declared adventuring meaningless, pledging himself entirely to the Vera Empire, striking down all who opposed. Claiming imperial will as justification, he promised conquest of the Holy Republic and death to challengers. Steel flew from Basina's blade, overwhelming Zed before his magical guard could fully form. He gritted his teeth as the strike landed. Watchers sensed the sharp difference in their strength. Despite bold resistance, Basina's presence dwarfed them. True S-rank force shattered all pretense of equality instantly. Fragments scattered across the ground as Basina cleared debris, unshaken by the clash just now. Quina stepped forward with resolve, catching Basina off guard as a new warrior challenged his conviction. Zed thanked Quina for the opening. Coordinating defense and offense hadn't gone smoothly at first. A powerful golden punch surged forward. That moment of support gave him focus to retaliate. He lunged with full strength, channeling momentum through his body, with no hesitation in movement. Basina caught the blow with raw strength. Shock flickered across his face from the impact. Breathing heavy, Zed grinned as blades locked. His voice carried triumph. He had finally stopped Basina's strike. Tension flared between clashing blades until Zed forced Basina back, demanding an end to fighting. Luina arrived with sharp presence, halting the battle instantly as both warriors turned toward her. Silently, everyone stepped back. Basina lowered his arms while Zed remained watchful and alert. Without hesitation, Luina stepped closer and declared her interest in Zed, ordering him to serve her. She offered him a future beyond the guild, insisting his power deserved the Vera Empire. Luina promised wealth and influence far beyond adventuring, offering to fulfill whatever he truly desired. With confidence, she extended her hand, asking Zed to follow her and leave everything behind. He refused her offer, demanding the Empire retreat from the Holy Republic immediately without conflict. Zed made it clear he cherished adventuring and detested their brutal methods involving innocent kingdoms. Then he smiled, pointing out Quina's strength and loyalty as reasons to stay with the guild. Luina confronted Zed with pride, shocked he rejected her offer unlike anyone had before. Zed firmly told her to leave and return to the Holy Republic with nothing. Silently turning away, Luina withdrew. Zed and Quina remained, watching her figure vanish into darkness. Allies welcomed Zed's return, praising his success in repelling the Wela Empire's military provocation. Quina smiled warmly, proud of Zed's choice. He vowed to guide her from now on. Though surprised by Luina's withdrawal, Zed and his companions remained cautious, suspecting deeper motives behind it. Luina's subordinate questioned her retreat. She calmly justified it, acknowledging Zed's strength after losing her blade. Pride unshaken, she explained challenging a monster barehanded would have been recklessly foolish, not strategic. Despite injury, the soldier admired Zed's raw power, sensing he hadn't shown his full potential yet. With a grin, Luina whispered to herself, clearly impressed by Zed's hidden strength and unpredictability. Luina stared with determination. No matter what, she vowed to make Zed hers eventually. The dragon spoke calmly, assuring Zed the threat had passed, and the attackers had retreated. Rather than fight, the dragon decided building a connection with Zed served better long-term goals. Mutual respect was established. Both sides acknowledged benefits in cooperation instead of unnecessary confrontation. Grateful for the trust, Zed offered future help should the dragons ever require his aid. While Zed prepared to leave, the dragon murmured Luina's name, still holding lingering concern. A strange new man arrived loudly, declaring his mission to shame the Holy Republic publicly. His plan was quickly dismissed after learning Luina had already withdrawn, thanks to Zed's efforts. Frustrated by this outcome, the man raged, blaming Zed's interference for ruining the hero selection. Another guild member defended Zed, reminding them he had saved critical land from complete destruction. Concerns grew about Zed's origin. Some argued his unknown background disqualified him from hero status. Arguments escalated further, exposing political favoritism behind royal candidates like the second Prince Weeg. Mockery continued as one man ridiculed the standards, suggesting even dirty river water sufficed. Disgusted by the chaos, the dragon growled. He considered biting someone just to end it. Quina warned the man his arrogance would fail. He underestimated how exposed he'd just become. Quina broadcasted everything live, exposing Bayera's Madden's corruption to the entire public without hesitation. Citizens watched in shock as Bayera's arrogant face was projected, revealing his disgraceful behavior openly. Panic spread across the venue. Attempts to stop the stream came far too late. Humiliation overwhelmed Bayera's. Quina remained composed, while others observed his collapse with a mix of disbelief. Cheers filled the tavern as Zaid and his new companions celebrated with overflowing mugs and laughter. Among unfamiliar faces, Shiera smiled gently while Zaid expressed amazement at the guild's warm hospitality and food. Lif explained the corrupt hero association's downfall, exposing fraud and abuse hidden beneath their noble public image. Over dinner, Quina toasted the recent scandal's reveal, honoring those who endured hardship to uncover the truth. Zaid, stunned by their intentions, realized they aimed to form the strongest adventurer party in history. His efforts had helped expose the Hero Association's corruption, leading to its official dissolution soon after. Lif proposed forming an elite party, selecting only the most skilled adventurers from the existing guild. Surprised by the offer, Zaid hesitated, sensing Lif's expectations and remembering all she had done. Memories of exploitation haunted him, recalling how hero parties prioritized wealth over justice, leaving scars he couldn't ignore. With steady resolve, Zaid respectfully declined, unwilling to repeat the past within another hollow organization masked as noble. Lif laughed confidently, surprising Zaid, who had expected frustration rather than such a carefree reaction. She clarified the plan wasn't another hero party imitation, but a functionally independent strike force. Operating beyond national limits, she envisioned a powerful unit, acting swiftly where conventional guilds could not interfere. Bureaucracy had restricted their actions, even when involved in major crises like the Hero Association's corruption. A rapid response team could contain disasters immediately, preventing unnecessary damage and protecting countless lives in remote regions. Lif emphasized that power meant little without compassion, praising Zaid for extending help where others ignored need. Recognizing his value, she insisted that only someone like him could complete the team's foundation. After thinking it through, Zaid agreed, offering his strength as long as it truly helped others. Though still accepting low-ranked missions, he smiled as Lif reassured him that nothing about that changed. Curious about the rest of the team, he asked who else had joined this operation. Quina burst into the room, demanding to be heard after catching wind of their conversation. Without hesitation, Shiera asked to join the strongest party, catching everyone off guard with her urgency. Her reason wasn't just fame. Facing Luina made her realize how invisible she had been before. Despite her efforts, Shiera had never once stood out. In Luina's cold, calculating eyes, driven by frustration and longing, she declared her wish to grow stronger and fight beside Zaid. Lif acknowledged Quina's passion, but explained that entry into the party required fulfilling a specific condition. Reaching this rank was the minimum requirement, a standard not easily met without recognition and results. Seats weren't decided by desire alone. External reputation and proven strength remained essential for candidates. Another member had already been selected, none other than the famous saint, Solia Aiden herself. Despite the challenge, Shiera remained determined to rise quickly, hoping to stand beside Zaid in battle. Lif teased Quina lightheartedly, amused by her fiery drive and Shiera's unexpectedly serious determination to improve. She affirmed everyone's growth was being watched closely, acknowledging Zaid's journey from servant to self-driven adventurer. Memories of restriction faded as Zaid embraced his new life, finally moving with purpose and freedom. Smiles and laughter filled the guild hall as the team shared food, peace, and hopeful ambition. Later that night, full from the meal, Zaid led the group into town, spirits high. Zaid offered to buy snacks, but everyone politely declined, leaving him slightly puzzled by their reactions. Near the plaza, they noticed a crowd gathering around a group distributing leaflets with urgency. It turned out to be followers of Asura, the national religion led by the Saint Solia. Lif speculated this group might be a splinter sect opposing the main Asura doctrine for influence. A young girl introduced herself as part of the true Asura church and approached them directly. While enjoying his snack, Zaid spotted the others talking with a girl outside a building. Curious, he approached just as she continued explaining the true Asura church's teachings to Quina. Before he could speak, she turned toward him with surprise, recognizing his face almost instantly. Shock filled her eyes before she called out to him with a mix of reverence and awe. In that instant, admiration sparkled brightly in her eyes as she stared directly at Zaid's face. The girl suddenly called Zaid savior, startling him while he stood there, holding grilled skewers awkwardly. Confused and speechless, he stared at her glowing expression, unsure how to respond to such devotion. A mysterious girl suddenly appears, calling Zaid savior in front of the surprised adventurer guild. Confused by her claim, Zaid denies knowing her. While the guild girls press him for answers, she introduces herself as Sufi, recalling his presence during the dragon attack in the Holy Republic. Authorities rush in, declaring the religious gathering illegal, forcing Sufi and her followers to disperse immediately under pressure. Before leaving, Sufi bows to Zaid, praying the goddess Asti continues to bless his path. A group fled, leaving Zaid puzzled, while his companions speculated about their status and rank. Suddenly, a familiar voice called out an old comrade named Shiera appeared, smiling warmly. Shiera greeted Zaid cheerfully, mentioning she joined the new Night Order and was adjusting to adventurer life. Although leadership was uncertain, she credited Zaid for reforming the once toxic environment of the Night Order. As they talked, Shiera explained the true Asti Church had deviated from original beliefs, causing rising tensions. Tension rises as border defenses weaken, surrounding nations prepare to redraw lines. Amid collapsing military power, conflicts erupt along the borders, with demonic factions, especially aggressive guilds, dispatch mercenaries to stabilize regions. Shiera invites Zaid to help, but he politely declines as she returns to her duties. Quina observes the unrest, noting both the Holy Republic and Zuela Kingdom are caught in endless struggles. Lif, sensing looming conflict, resolves to urgently gather seasoned adventurers into a combat-ready strike party. A week later, near the Zuela border, soldiers survey the ravaged battlefield, littered with broken weapons. A towering demon warrior calmly approached, his presence alone enough to silence the wounded and dying. Crushed bodies lay around him as he stepped forward, completely unaffected by the fallen human's prayers. Even among demons, his strength stood unmatched. Resistance proved hopeless, and panic gripped the remaining defenders. One soldier charged in desperation, screaming at the monster while others shouted for him to stop. A desperate swing landed on the demon's body, but it failed to cause any damage. Grinning with amusement, the demon seized both soldiers easily, mocking their prayers and crushing their resistance instantly. One warrior lashed out with a last-ditch strike, only to be overwhelmed by monstrous counterforce. Suddenly, an unseen blow disrupted the demon's attack, prompting a furious shout demanding to know who interfered. Nearby, she scolded her subordinates, furious that Zuela's military collapse had become an international embarrassment. Solia chose to aid the wounded first, impressing Philo with her calm and resolve. Both women stood firm. Saint Solia and Sword Saint Philo radiated silent authority and strength. A grateful soldier watched in awe as his broken arm healed completely from Solia's divine magic. Furious from being ignored, the demon lunged at Philo, mocking her with reckless confidence and rage. Without warning, she vanished and reappeared behind him, leaving the demon stunned by her unexpected speed. Wounded and enraged, the demon took flight, fleeing after suffering critical damage in the last exchange. Philo noted his surprising endurance, unimpressed that even decapitation wasn't enough to finish his resilient kind. With healing finished, Solia prepared to regroup. Philo confirmed no other demons lurked in the area. Grateful soldiers thanked Solia for her miracle. She simply smiled, acknowledging their recovery without seeking praise. Confident leadership returned to her voice as Solia guided the reassembled forces toward their next objective. Inside the border camp, injured soldiers cried out in pain as medics scrambled to treat everyone. Supplies ran low, tempers flared, and some began accusing Asti believers of being untrustworthy extremists. Arguments escalated fast until Sufi stepped in, demanding everyone stop fighting and focus on recovery efforts. Despite insults, she remained composed, explaining their shared faith and reminding them pain distorts reason and perception. Skepticism lingered, but she calmly applied village-born medicine, proving its effects by healing with her own hands. Soldiers noticed the man's pain had faded. Sufi's efforts earned murmurs of cautious respect. Few had seen high priests assist directly. Sufi's personal involvement challenged assumptions about her group. Hands raised in prayer, she quietly began casting wide area healing magic inside the packed medical tent. Cries of relief filled the space as wounds closed and movement returned to previously paralyzed limbs. Sufi's ointment also proved effective. easing pain. Nearby voices acknowledged Solia's strength and Sufi's unexpected gentleness alike. Solia completed healing the last patient, stepping forward as the crowd watched her in awe. Though weary from constant care, she reminded everyone that the frontline battle had yet to end. Sufi respectfully introduced herself as the High Priestess of Esti, meeting Solia for the first time. Both women expressed mutual admiration, recognizing each other's efforts in healing and supporting the wounded across war zones. As soldiers whispered nearby, they sensed an unusual partnership forming between the priestess and the renowned healer. Xiphond appeared unexpectedly on the battlefield, shocking everyone with his presence and calm demeanor. Feigning casual reasons, he smiled and claimed he only stopped by while passing through nearby territory. Sufi remained cautious, sensing danger in his words and dismissing him as unworthy of their trust. She boldly declared that the teachings of Esti were flawed and no longer deserved obedience. Xiphond chuckled darkly, leaning forward with unsettling calm as tension rose between doctrine and defiance. He whispered cruelly, invoking Sufi's dead parents to shake her faith and emotional resolve. She froze momentarily, overwhelmed, but was quickly shielded by allies who sensed her distress and stepped forward. Sufi's restraint stopped retaliation, knowing any violence would serve as proof against her and her beliefs. Suddenly, reports arrived that wounded from the front line were returning far too quickly and unexpectedly. To everyone's shock, one lone S-rank adventurer had annihilated an entire enemy demon battalion himself. Philil observed silently as Solia and the others discussed the black-haired youth's rumored strength. Xiphond chose to withdraw, sensing his presence was no longer welcome among the group. Suspicion grew around why such high-ranking figures appeared so suddenly near the unstable battlefield's front line. Though uneasy, Philil agreed to cooperate, her demeanor calm but her instincts clearly on alert. Silently, she vowed to personally judge anyone who involved themselves with Solia from now on. A mysterious figure descended through magic, drawing attention as a dark portal pulsed ominously before him. Power surged outward as he activated a spell, summoning demons while one warrior glared back defiantly. Confusion erupted among the demon ranks, realizing a single man had completely reversed their frontline momentum. Tension spiked when Yusef, one of the 7 demon nobles, appeared to address the failure. A nobleman stared down coldly, questioning if he had overestimated their strength and loyalty. One man shattered their front lines alone, leaving behind devastation and silence across the battlefield's center. A desperate soldier was impaled mercilessly, unable to react as monstrous claws tore through his chest. Dragged forward like a ragdoll, his apologies meant nothing to the furious and disgusted noble. Intruder's identity emerged: a former knight of Kuzera, now an S-rank adventurer named Zaid. The battered subordinate defended Zaid's legend, insisting no records existed before joining the Adventurers Guild. When asked about religion, he confirmed Zaid followed no doctrine and avoided every known temple faction. The noble dismissed concerns, launched his underling away, and commanded continued surveillance without altering their current plans. Declaring humanity foolish, he promised a massive assault and dark ritual in exactly 1 month. Orders rang out clearly: slaughter the priests, destroy believers, and reduce Esti's shrine to rubble. He had spent years climbing to high priesthood, patiently waiting while enemies struggled and defenses held. Plans of destruction consumed him, determined to collapse the Holy Republic and deliver Solia Aiden's head. He anticipated the exact moment of ruin, confident the annihilation of his enemies would arrive swiftly. In Kuzera's border garrison, calm returned as soldiers prepared food, unaware of the looming threat outside. Philil and Solia shared quiet tea, discussing S-rank adventurers and the unusually low casualties in battle. A nearby village offered lodging, where Solia inquired carefully about meeting someone important within the garrison. Phil hesitated, embarrassed while explaining her presence might disrupt others enjoying a rare moment of rest. A sudden reaction surprised them both, revealing the genuine affection developing quietly between the two companions. They recalled the first meeting, tracing Phil's origins back to her parents, both serving as priests. Joyful laughter emerged as Solia smiled at a child, showing warmth and innocence in quiet moments. Solia reacted quickly as a minor injury occurred while handling the baby, ensuring everyone stayed calm. Concern appeared on her face, showing care as she gently tended to the infant's tiny foot. A hand traced the wound, reflecting how long it takes to master magical skills fully. Training continued patiently, each spell requiring years to perfect, with vast differences in human aptitude. Exceptional talent aside, most individuals spend decades honing magic, with only a few exceeding average expectations. Healing arts distinguish Solia, whose abilities set her apart, naturally earning the title of saint. Morning prayers began as she prepared, channeling magic and devotion to communicate with the goddess. Solia explained how offering magic to the deity allows her to feel the body's fatigue. Confidence grew as she realized her powers could save many, extending beyond immediate simple healing. Daily prayers became a ritual, each spell carefully controlled to help countless people without overexertion. Rain soaked the battlefield as Solia watched, witnessing her parents lying lifeless, unable to protect them. Devastation filled her as she knelt, powerless, while enemies celebrated gaining strength from her family's deaths. Two demons observed her silently, debating whether to act against the young girl, despite their own advantage. Desperate prayers erupted, calling upon Asti for help, begging divine intervention amidst overwhelming danger. Unbelieving, attackers saw her praying to a god, unable to comprehend how faith could offer protection. Enemies mocked her prayers, claiming no divine help would come as the rain poured heavily. Confusion spread among them as an unexpected presence appeared, silencing the taunts and halting their assault. Relief washed over Solia as she looked upon the adventurer standing tall amid fallen bodies. Recognition occurred instantly, confirming the Knight of Kuzera had arrived, ensuring her survival through swift intervention. Apologies came explaining others couldn't arrive in time, leaving only this hero to rescue her. Rain poured over the battlefield, soaking the child as she watched fallen parents with wide eyes. Fear gripped her as demons celebrated, unaware a new presence observed, ready to intervene decisively. The child knelt, desperate, channeling her will to survive while the enemies mocked her powerless. Suddenly, shadows moved. A black-haired figure appeared among the corpses, emanating calm, asserting control over chaos. Relief washed over the child, as her savior stood tall, holding her safely away from danger. Solia carefully watched over the battlefield, exhausted from constant prayers, ensuring every fallen soldier received proper attention. Gazing from the building's edge, Zaid felt the chill of uncertainty, contemplating the consequences of earlier battles. Villagers whispered nervously about a powerful Srank adventurer, wondering if the black-haired man was him. The innkeeper guided Zaid to the village's only inn, where weary travelers rested and shared news. Zaid lay upside down in his room, bored, unsure how to pass the remaining hours meaningfully. A sudden knock startled him, revealing a stranger at the door, and curiosity stirred within Zaid. Philo, a serious adventurer searching for a man named Zaid, appeared and questioned if he was present. He confirmed his name to the stern woman, who silently questioned his disheveled, suspicious appearance. Without hesitation, Phil introduced herself as Saria Aiden's retainer and voiced distrust toward Zaid's vague background. Raising an eyebrow, he reacted with confusion while Phil accused his record of being incomplete and unclear. She explained that transparency mattered, and without proof of character, she couldn't approve his involvement with Saria. Zaid defended his past, recalling his battle to stop the Knights. Even if unrecognized officially, Phil accused him of suspicious timing, implying the coup began shortly after Zaid left the Knights. With tension rising, Zaid questioned if she believed he was secretly aligned with enemies of the kingdom. Her response dismissed the concern, stating thorough scrutiny was required to ensure Saria's safety above all else. Despite mistrust, Phil told him to do nothing unless he had harmful intentions toward her master. Prepared for confrontation, she reached toward her weapon, ready to act should her doubts be confirmed. She came to inform him directly Saria's safety meant monitoring Zaid's actions from now on. Without waiting for approval, Phil turned and exited calmly, leaving Zaid alone with lingering doubts. Later, while reflecting with a friend, Zaid expressed confusion over being treated as a threat. Doubt settled in his thoughts, questioning if his actions truly appeared suspicious to those around him. Relief came as his companion reassured him despite appearances. He clearly wasn't someone to be feared. Rumors spread that Zaid fought demons at the border, despite enemy numbers being unusually overwhelming, though the front line was held. Continued demonic movements suggested another slow invasion had already begun. Zaid insisted he could keep going. Rest could wait, even without food or sleep for days. Lif shouted in protest, furious at his recklessness and disregard for his own physical limits. Maintaining diplomatic missions, border patrol, and coup prevention already demanded everything. Adding more was clearly too much. Guild members praised his performance, though Lif criticized him for doing more than what was necessary. Before any protest could continue, she firmly ordered Zed to take a break from all duties. Rest, she explained, was essential. Overwork would dull his strength when truly critical tasks eventually arrived. Zed hesitated at first, uncertain how to rest, but finally agreed after realizing her point was valid. Unsure how to relax, he considered visiting someone while trying to avoid needless heroic interference again. Multiple people turned Zed away, apologizing and explaining they were too busy to give him work. Rejection after rejection left him lying alone, wondering how to spend a day without obligations. Trying to reflect, he realized he didn't even know what resting truly meant for himself. Suddenly, a commotion broke his thoughts. Someone shouted about false teachings and started stirring up the crowd. More villagers gathered, whispering that Zed might become violent again, recalling his past actions against fanatics. Lif warned Zed not to interfere, but the situation escalated before anyone could stop it. Conflict spread quickly. Though technically on break, Zed knew only he could prevent things from worsening now. Fanatics shouted threats, claiming divine support while tormenting others who followed different beliefs within the village. A brave youth stepped forward, protesting their cruelty and warning the mob they'd gone too far already. He argued that no faith justified violence. Zed, still unnoticed, silently observed, impressed by the stranger's courage. Using illusion magic, he disguised Zed to avoid attention while confronting the violent religious aggressors alone. A sudden glow from the attacker's pendant caught everyone's eye, radiating strange energy between clenched fingers. With fanatic conviction, he claimed divine magic empowered him, proof that his actions were blessed and justified. Blind belief pushed him further. He screamed righteousness, invoking the goddess's name to attack without hesitation. Before harm could be done, his body froze. Shock replaced fury as he lost all movement. Before anyone escalated further, a commanding voice ordered them to stop. The knights had finally arrived. Offenders were restrained immediately, while others checked on bystanders, confirming no injuries remained among the innocent. Those disguised by illusion magic blended back into the crowd as knights secured the situation efficiently. One of the rescued villagers thanked the brave youth, who humbly claimed he'd acted without thinking. Their conversation revealed differences in doctrine. Even believers of the same goddess interpreted faith in separate ways. Religious followers explained how pendants infused with magic allowed prayer without visiting formal sanctuaries anymore. Such convenience boosted believers, but turned prayer into something cheap and emotionally detached over time. Despite that concern, upcoming ceremonies at the holy prayer grounds seemed to hold greater significance. They thanked him sincerely, calling him a benefactor, and invited him to visit their church. Walking alone, he recalled their offer, already feeling drawn into deeper matters than expected. Amid radiant light, a devoted priestess offered prayer, unaware of the darkness forming beneath peace. Solia knelt before the altar, her silent prayer lingering beneath the towering gaze of the statue. Two knights observed quietly, noting how Solia continued praying as preparations for the sacred ritual progressed elsewhere. Phil entered and silenced the guards with a sharp command, maintaining strict discipline near the sanctum. Behind closed doors, whispers questioned her motives, speculating whether she was investigating the elusive figure, Xifonde. Alone in the archive, Phil searched records, uncovering Xifon's mysterious origins from 10 years ago. She studied the old photo, tracing Xifon's rise through Aster's sacred religious hierarchy with suspicion. Behind her, Xiphon appeared, mocking Solia's fame while claiming his popularity thrived on darker, blood-stained respect. Despite his calm smile, Phil confronted him, aware he'd been investigating her and spreading quiet rumors. Xiphon welcomed her suspicion, suggesting direct questions were better, as guiding lost sheep was his priestly duty. Moments later, followers approached him respectfully, seeking guidance on ritual equipment, and Phil quietly decided to observe more. Phil didn't sense Xiphon's approach. His sudden appearance confirmed he was a dangerous, unpredictable figure. Xiphon, walking calmly, mused that Solia's followers suspected him but lacked understanding of his true intentions. A cold smile spread as he whispered that by the time they noticed, it'd be over. Meanwhile, Shira reminded Phil that the holy prayer ritual was about to begin very soon. Anicap Fazid listened as Shira explained the ritual spanned nations and united all sects. Quina encouraged Zaid to join the ceremony, assuring him that intentions mattered more than background or rank. Zaid laughed nervously, admitting his flaws, but promised he would keep growing for everyone's sake and peace. The group pondered unity, marveling at how an entire nation could pray together toward one shared hope. He sincerely wished their collective prayers would reach someone, somewhere, and truly make a difference tomorrow. Elsewhere in the camp, preparations continued quietly while Sufi sat alone, reading something that filled her with concern. Sufi held the letter tightly, steeling herself as the long-awaited day finally drew near. Clouds passed above the ancient structure as memories of her parents quietly surfaced in her heart. Inside the hall, worshippers gathered solemnly while she joined the prayer, determined to honor her duty. After the ceremony concluded, she approached the priest, asking for a private consultation regarding a delicate matter. Her shadow fell across the grass as he hesitated, realizing her concern involved the mysterious pendant. Concerns over the pendant's purpose grew. With its casual use weakening faith across many regions, talk spread about distrust in the central church, prompting thoughts of investigating its current condition directly. Before leaving, he received Sufi's blessing, her words full of sincerity and youthful encouragement for success. Temporary guardians were entrusted with her care as both parents prepared for a journey of answers. She shouted confidently, waving goodbye, unaware of how much their absence would soon reshape her quiet world. News spread quickly. Sufi's parents were killed during a demonic attack while traveling through the Republic. Though villagers broke the news gently, they agreed the sight of the bodies was too cruel. Later, a priest inquired about their home, following up on the tragic return of the remains. Unaware of the visitor, Sufi sat inside, whispering wishes for her parents to return safely. Suddenly, a dark figure appeared, and behind him stood Xiphon, smiling coldly with unknown intentions. Sufi asked the stranger's identity, but he claimed to be her parents' trusted friend instead. He stepped closer, calmly telling her to behave, and mentioned snacks were in the usual cupboard. Tears welled as she tried to stay composed, startled by his sudden eerie laughter breaking silence. Backing away, she questioned his relationship with her parents, but received a vague apology and deflection. With a crooked smile, he finally introduced himself, leaving Sufi frozen in fear at the name Xiphon. Tears fell as Sufi processed everything, eyes wide in shock at what had just occurred. Inside the cupboard, she found pastries and a sealed letter left behind by her parents. The letter explained their suspicions about Xiphon's involvement and warned of risks tied to the church. Phil's voice carried sorrow and regret, expressing apology for the outcome none of them foresaw. Quietly holding the letter, Sufi thanked the attendant, preparing herself for what tomorrow might bring. Sufi began alone, but others who'd lost families gradually joined, sharing purpose through humble service together. Her efforts attracted volunteers who believed in change, forming a quiet force beneath a broken faith. With courage in her voice, she declared their plan to expose the church's hidden deceptions. Trusting in their shared strength, she called on everyone to act before divine prayers began. Elsewhere, Xiphon, already aware, vowed to expose them publicly and crush resistance before it spread. The massive statue of a praying angel stood silent as crowds gathered under the holy temple's gaze. Zaid arrived at the ceremonial hall, curious about the sudden crowd drawn to the grand cathedral. A large audience gathered before the altar, where Sufi, priestess of Aster, awaited her counterpart solemnly. Spotting Phil speaking with a blonde priestess, Zaid cautiously approached, avoiding unnecessary attention from others. He adjusted his expression slightly, skeptical of a faith that controls people through punishment and fear. Zaid reflected on the night's brutality and the strange behavior of Aster's devoted street followers. Determined to investigate further, he left the dark hall with clenched fists and renewed focus. The massive angel statue towered overhead, and whispers claimed a hidden prayer chamber lay deep inside. Eyes widened as he stepped forward, awestruck by the divine presence radiating from the structure. Inside, he and the others stood stunned at the enormous inner space hidden within the statue. A second angel statue stood quietly inside, facing the worshippers who gathered around its altar in silence. Before he could move, two familiar faces from a past town gathering suddenly called out to him. They asked why he came, and he explained his curiosity about a stair led him to investigate. Rather than object, the pair invited him to stand and pray behind them without much resistance. Accepting their offer with a light smile, he shifted position while secretly observing their subtle behavior. People from different sects gathered in harmony, praying peacefully without any signs of past hostility or tension. One follower placed a firm hand on his shoulder, explaining their shared faith and purpose behind unity. The stage lights dimmed as a robed figure appeared, silencing the crowd before addressing them solemnly. Xiphond raised his voice, announcing the sacred prayer ceremony would begin shortly before stepping into position. With serious expression, he described recent threats and urged everyone to pray for Astair's guidance and peace. He signaled the ceremony's transition as his voice echoed calmly through the chamber of believers. Solia emerged gracefully, drawing attention from the crowd and instantly silencing the atmosphere with her presence. Her appearance stirred whispers. Even Zed noticed how revered and admired she was among the people. Someone beside him whispered that Xiphond, despite dark rumors, presided as Astair's high priest in this place. Zed silently observed, realizing Xiphond might be the source behind Astair Faith's more troubling public reputation. Solia instructed everyone to channel magic and prayer into the statue, guiding Astair's divine resonance forward. With calm expression, she began offering energy as her voice echoed through the still, sacred space. Participants joined hands in focused prayer, while Zed sensed something unusual within the circulating magical current. Suddenly, Sufi gave a sharp command and several followers moved swiftly to restrain Solia without hesitation. Energy restraints snapped around her body as Phil shouted her name. Shocked by the ambush unfolding instantly, Sufi addressed the crowd, acknowledging the disrespect, but insisted revealing truth outweighed protocol in this situation. She reminded everyone of murdered pastors who investigated Astair's secrets and the rumors linking them to demons. Evidence pointed toward Xiphond, whose name consistently surfaced behind suspicious incidents tied to corrupted Astair influence. Sufi declared readiness to face punishment, but demanded to examine Xiphond's relics and the statue's contents. Using a pendant, her allies revealed prayers weren't reaching Astair, magic was being rerouted secretly to Xiphond. Followers demanded Xiphond explain himself, calling for justice as unrest stirred within Astair's own ranks. Zed stepped forward, urging others to question Astair's path and demand answers alongside the gathered congregation. Voices echoed through the hall, shouting for evidence as the crowd pressured the altar for clarity. He muttered with regret, hinting that his plan had been thwarted at the final critical moment. With rising fury, he lashed out, mocking Sufi, and implying her parents should have perished with her. Xiphond admitted he wanted more magic, but decided to advance his plans without further delay. He casually revealed the magical tool everyone questioned, showing no concern as Sufi prepared herself behind him. With a wave, he crushed the artifact, dismissing it as meaningless stone. Shocking the surrounding crowd, the statue exploded violently, forcing Sufi to act fast and raise a defensive barrier around everyone. Unfazed by the resistance, Xiphond transformed, mocking their preparations as his true strength began to emerge. Explosions erupted across the sanctuary as protectors rushed to shield Sufi from the collapsing statue fragments. Xiphond mocked their faith, revealing he had absorbed all the sacred power into his own body. Philo charged forward with her weapon drawn, aiming directly at the man who betrayed the people. Their blades clashed violently, as both locked eyes, battle lines drawn beneath the broken holy ground. She questioned if such power was enough to overthrow the Holy Republic's leadership and its order. Blood spilled as his monstrous limbs tore through her defense, leaving her stunned and helplessly wounded. Citizens panicked while the remaining guards struggled to maintain magical barriers and usher civilians toward shelter. Though injured, she insisted on healing her ally and begged Solia to escape immediately. Despite pain, Solia delayed her retreat, buying time as the demon lord declared humanity's extinction. Her eyes locked onto him with fury, unleashing a sudden explosion that shattered the battlefield. A shadowy figure emerged from smoke, prompting Xiphond to halt and question the approaching presence. A calm adventurer stepped forward, fists clenched, standing protectively between the fallen and their attacker. Zed stepped forward, calm and focused, as Solia and Phil anxiously called out behind him. Xiphond flinched, realizing Zed's presence had bypassed all detection. Illusion magic had completely dissipated unnoticed. The corrupted enemy emerged, monstrous and taunting. Zaid stood firm, shielding the women with unwavering resolve. With sharp movements, Zaid deflected the assault. He shouted, declaring clearly who the true enemy was. Tentacles surged violently as Xiphonda retaliated, branding Zaid a threat and preparing a devastating magical strike. Tentacles lunged from all directions, surrounded yet composed. Zaid readied himself to confront Xiphon's trap. Explosions shook the guild's interior. Alarmed staff looked up as magical tremors rippled through the building. Without hesitation, Z dashed forward, lifting Solia and retreating from danger before rubble crushed the hallway. Xiphon's shadowy figure stood beyond the cliffs. His smirk deepened while watching retreating forces flee below. Permission granted, Xiphon calmly approved Yusef's request to initiate war against the Holy Republic's defenses. Thou urged to evacuate. Zaid declared his decision. He would stay behind and confront danger. Xiphon's overwhelming magic loomed above. Phil volunteered to fight too, unwilling to let Zaid face him alone. Solia stepped in calmly, reminding them Phil's wounds remained and trust should be placed in Zaid. With a confident smile, Zaid accepted the responsibility. Philly met his gaze and nodded firmly. While retreating with survivors, Solia promised to heal the injured. Her parting glance lingered on Zaid. Solia offered a gentle farewell. Despite the tension, her words carried hope and silent trust. With a soft smile, Zaid thanked her, turned away, and began moving with determined steps. He launched into the air, eyes focused ahead, leaving everyone behind as he descended forward. Wind surged as he charged in. Xiphon remained still, awaiting Zaid's sudden aerial assault above. Dust exploded from impact. Standing amidst smoke, Zaid emerged calmly, hand clenched, eyes fixed ahead. Zaid approached Xiphon's mangled body, tentacles strewn and burnt, yet something still pulsed beneath the surface. From the scorched remains, a faint voice muttered bitterly about the body it once cherished. Suddenly, Zaid sensed overwhelming magic swelling. His instincts flared as he leapt backward without hesitation. From the broken body, grotesque tentacles reformed. Flesh twisted unnaturally as the transformation began anew. He narrowed his eyes, watching closely, so this hideous form was Xiphon's true appearance after all. Xiphon's transformation completed. His monstrous new form radiated violent magic and twisted overwhelming power. Then Zaid faced the creature head. On Xiphon cracked his neck, preparing for the coming clash. Twisted bones grinned beneath stretched skin. Xiphon thanked Zaid mockingly for the earlier damaging blow. A new name was revealed. Xiphon was Yusef, one of the 7 demon nobles. Raising his clawed hand slowly, Yusef grinned coldly and uttered one word, farewell. Yusef's blow landed hard. Zaid's body withstood it, but the impact forced him backward. Thou injured. Zaid stayed alert. Yusef mocked him, stalling until his subordinates finished preparations below. Philil and Solia noticed something wrong. Demons blocked evacuation routes and threatened unarmed civilians directly. Dozens of demons revealed themselves. Their intent was clear: hunt every human still inside the hall. Zaid sensed the chaos beneath. Murders had started, and now every exit was sealed shut. Yusef mocked the effort. If Zaid resisted further, he promised a swift, merciful death. She erupted into motion, smashing a demon to the ground before it reached the civilians. Demons hesitated, recognizing Phil's title as Sword Saint. Fear spread quickly across their ranks. Injuries didn't stop her. She moved without hesitation, stating clearly their defeat was already decided. Blade sliced through the demon's neck. While regrouping, she commanded everyone nearby to escape immediately. Zaid stood calmly. Escape was proceeding without issue, and Yusef's subordinates had clearly failed. Enraged, Yusef roared as Zaid's words struck a nerve. Tentacles burst violently in every direction. From another angle, a young warrior joined the battle, targeting Yusef's limbs with swift precision. He stayed mobile, forcing Yusef's attacks wide. Civilians used the distraction to flee safely. With frustration rising, Yusef activated a core crystal, his last resort, reserved for annihilation. Surging with overwhelming magic, the demon's form twisted, revealing terrifying new power and monstrous strength. Noticing the surge, he realized too late the enemy's magic had reached an unprecedented, deadly level. A devastating beam of energy shot out, catching him off guard and striking with terrifying force. The attack hit hard, blasting him across the battlefield as debris scattered around horrified onlookers. Calmly observing the aftermath, the demon acknowledged his power, impressed he had sent him flying. Tears welled in her eyes as she watched Jito vanish into the explosion's blinding light. A sudden tremor erupts near the battlefield, forcing the adventurers to pause and assess danger. Hovering confidently above the ruins, Yusef declares the enemies defeated and surveys the remaining survivors. He spots fleeing villagers below and grins coldly, announcing the start of a human hunt. Yusef fires a searing beam from above, targeting the father and child running for safety. Sensing death incoming, the father shields his daughter and yells desperately, bracing for the impact. Sufi leaps between the beam and family, casting a barrier to block Yusef's fatal attack. Without hesitation, she urges the terrified family to escape, buying time as Yusef draws closer. Standing firm, Sufi confronts Yusef, demanding the truth about her parents' murder years ago. Elsewhere, a secret conversation reveals the truth. The church's accuser was corrupt from the start. Smiling coldly, the traitor admits faking sincerity was difficult, then calmly confesses to killing them immediately. Sufi glares at Yusef, trembling with rage after hearing he mocked her dying parents' final moments. He raises his grotesque weapon high, announcing Sufi's end and mocking her faith in gods. Before Yusef strikes, a powerful force crashes down. Zeed enters the scene, fist ready to fight. With incredible speed, Zeed punches Yusef across the battlefield, shocking Sufi with his sudden arrival. Yusef is launched back violently, stunned by the impact of Zeed's unexpected and overwhelming counterattack. Chunks of rubble exploded skyward as Yusef's body crashed violently into the ruined stone wall. Zeed approached calmly, asking if Sufi was unharmed, while she stared at him in awe. From the shadows, Yusef groaned and rose again, bloodied but stubbornly refusing to stay down. Explaining his escape, Yusef laughed, claiming he redirected the attack and shielded others inside the structure. He apologized for his delay, but Sufi gratefully thanked him for arriving in time. Zeed asked Sufi to evacuate the others while he stayed behind to confront Yusef. As Sufi fled, Yusef taunted Zeed, declaring chaos would continue unless he was destroyed. Power surged around Zeed as he gripped his blade and refuted Yusef's twisted beliefs. Yusef responded mockingly, but his expression shifted as Zeed's determination grew sharper and more intense. Charging recklessly, Yusef attacked, only to be met with a swift counterstrike to the face. Zeed launched forward, blade flashing through the air as his strike pierced straight through Yusef's body. Despite multiple wounds, Yusef kept grinning, refusing to fall and preparing a brutal counterattack immediately. Black flames swirled around him, regenerating the damaged flesh and igniting a sinister aura of power. Muscles tightened as he faced Zeed directly, muttering coldly about unleashing his true strength this time. Dark energy gathered above him, massive and spiraling, fueled by mana stolen from countless fallen souls. Yusef raised his arms toward the core, channeling everything into a massive focused energy burst. Veins bulged and eyes widened as Yusef unleashed his attack, aiming to annihilate Zeed completely. Injured refugees were escorted into the sanctuary, where Solia assessed the wounded and ordered triage immediately. With the civilians safe, Solia began sacred healing, while Sufi reported the evacuation process was complete. Restoration magic surged from Solia's hand, healing the grievously injured. A survivor urged them to find Geed. Once treatment finished, Solia turned urgently. Sufi ran up breathless, announcing Geed was safe and unharmed. Tears welled as Sufi explained how Geed stayed behind, bravely drawing enemy attacks to protect everyone. Solia trembled with relief upon seeing Geed alive, kneeling as emotions overwhelmed her completely. Later, doubts stirred. Could Geed really survive that overwhelming force alone? His power remained a mystery. Determined to confirm his safety, Solia rushed out. Sufi warned her of the danger ahead. Together they ascended ancient steps, drawn toward the strange energy where something ominous had taken shape. A swirling black sphere pulsed violently. Solia sensed immense magical pressure hidden deep within its core. Yusef revealed a grotesque new form, boasting his decade-long buildup of immense demonic magical power. Zaid stood silently before him. Yusef grinned, declaring the end and demanding his quiet death. Instead of retreating, Zaid drew his blade, calmly commanding civilians to evacuate and prepare for battle. Furious at the defiance, Yusef lunged forward, swearing to erase every trace of Zaid's resistance. But Zaid charged first, unleashing a single blinding sword strike aimed directly at Yusef's monstrous core. He collapsed in disbelief, unable to comprehend how Zaid's attack pierced his defenses so effortlessly. The shockwave exploded outward, consuming the battlefield in wind and light, leaving everyone speechless and blinded. Observers watched in confusion. That massive core of magic had been cleaved. No one understood how. Yusef stared at his wounds. Not just magic, even his body had been cleanly severed. Smoke thickened around him. Zaid had vanished into the haze, escaping Yusef's sight completely without a trace. Zaid launched another technique mid-air while Yusef froze, startled by the sudden formation of spiraling energy. Without hesitation, Zaid charged in from above as Yusef turned, barely reacting to the rapid movement. Flames erupted around the demon's feet, scorching the battlefield with a towering inferno of magic fire. Yusef grinned through the smoke, calling the raging fire beautiful, despite its intensity and destructive force. Claws tightened around the core. He prepared to unleash a massive final blast without restraint. Zaid drove his fist into Yusef's chest, channeling everyone's hope into a decisive strike. Gripping tightly, he declared he would reclaim what was stolen. Yusef howled in pain and fury. Calmly, Zaid revealed it wasn't Yusef's to keep, and vowed to return it properly. Yusef lunged forward in desperation, screaming that the power belonged to him and demanding it back. Instead of responding, Zaid raised his hand, prepared to activate the final phase. His fourth technique. A deafening surge of lightning crashed down as Zaid released his fourth technique, Raging Strike. Yusef staggered in shock, unable to react fast enough before the overwhelming force consumed him entirely. Zaid shouted the final words. Power exploded through the air, shaking the ground beneath their feet. From afar, he watched the impact zone fade, knowing the battle had finally reached its conclusion. Behind him, Solia and others stared in awe, struggling to comprehend how easily Zaid won. Yusef collapsed in the scorched crater, muttering regret over how close he came to power, coughing blood. He mocked humanity. Zaid responded firmly, saying this defeat came from underestimating others' strength. Demons had misjudged humans, Zaid included. His power exceeded logic, even shocking those from the darkest realms. He stepped away in silence. Yusef's crumbling voice called him a monster with a strange mix of awe. From above, the others arrived. Solia's voice echoed out, calling Zaid's name with relief and wonder. Everyone rushed to check on him. Sufi and Solia praised Zaid as their savior. Laughter broke tension. Survivors gathered below. Solia smiled silently, while Zaid casually reassured those around him. A sudden voice called his name. Zaid turned, recognizing the presence before even seeing her. Philo approached with calm steps. Before anything else, she expressed her thanks with quiet sincerity. She thanked him for protecting the Holy Republic. Zaid smiled, asking if doubts about him vanished. Then Phil acknowledged he had no ill will, though she still couldn't fully understand his intent. His strength frightened her, not because of danger, but because it felt completely unknowable and overwhelming. Though they shared common goals before, she admitted fearing what might happen. If he turned hostile, Zaid reassured her with a smile, accepting everything. They parted calmly, each returning to their duties. Alone now, he reflected on his past. Memory gaps lingered, especially about his parents' deaths in the forest. Staring at the sky in silence, he questioned everything, unsure what he truly was anymore. Zaid planned a peaceful visit to the Holy Republic's shrine, expecting nothing dangerous or dramatic. Lif listened with curiosity, surprised by his casual attitude, despite the obvious chaos surrounding his trip. Though events ended well, Lif remarked dryly how rest never truly meant rest for someone like him. He had defeated a demon threatening the shrine, leaving the enchanted relic with a girl named Solia. Then Lif suggested discussing their strongest adventurer party's future, clearly shifting towards something more serious and strategic. Lif noticed Zeed's silence and asked if something happened during his recent dangerous mission. Avoiding her gaze, he remembered Lif once investigated his past before recruiting him from the Knights. His voice trembled slightly as he admitted wanting to understand who he truly was inside. Zeed revealed that someone named Philo mentioned his unknown strength, prompting Lif to respond with concern. He finally recognized how terrifying his power appeared, and why others feared his hidden potential deeply. He asked the question weighing on his heart. What kind of person am I really? Lif hesitated, wanting to help, but admitted knowledge was limited to post-night, capture information and assumptions. A pause filled the room as silence settled between them, uncertainty thick in the air. She mentioned an unknown lead, a clue possibly hidden in the place where Zeed once lived. That location, the Forbidden Forest, might reveal answers buried deep within Zeed's forgotten past and origin. Shock flashed across Zeed's face as the suggestion of bringing others to the forest emerged. Lif, confident in Zeed's strength, told him to bring the usual 2 eavesdropping guild members. Shira and Quina, startled, denied eavesdropping and protested, going to such a deadly destination unprepared. Lif explained the forest held many S-rank creatures, but could benefit them if explored carefully. He agreed without hesitation, happy to help if it meant uncovering more about his identity. Everyone departed swiftly as Lif cheerfully shouted farewell, her confidence in their success unwavering and loud. Their boots touched down before the shadowed trees of the Forbidden Forest, air tense with mystery. Massive roots blanketed the forest floor, twisting endlessly beneath towering trees in suffocating silence and uneasy atmosphere. Zeed smiled nostalgically, recognizing the terrain others could only describe as eerie and completely foreign to them. He suggested heading toward where he once lived, though his memory of the area remained frustratingly vague. Zeed warned them about nearby monsters, but something emerged before he could even finish speaking. A massive beast appeared from the shadows, startling everyone and triggering immediate combat readiness among the group. Quina and Shira launched synchronized attacks, overwhelming the threat with precision strikes and impressive magical coordination. Pleased by their growth, Zeed praised both for becoming much stronger since their last expedition. Despite nerves, both girls admitted their training paid off and handled forest dangers better than expected. Without warning, he bolted forward with excitement, eager to explore deeper into the forest's interior. Confused and breathless, the girls chased after him, dodging roots and shadows between sudden enemy encounters. Eventually, they reached a clearing where Zeed believed he once lived long ago as a child. Fatigued from running, Shira and Quina rested while Zeed decided to search for clues and supplies. Quina gathered firewood nearby, while Shira stayed behind, preparing their temporary camp for the coming night. She reflected on the forest's danger, wondering how someone survived here without advanced magic or protection. Not far ahead, a sword embedded in ancient roots silently revealed itself under faint light and moss. She carefully pulled it free, thinking it might hold answers tied to Zeed's forgotten past. Elsewhere, Zeed noticed a monster nearby and immediately leapt forward, reacting with speed honed by instinct. His strike landed cleanly, destroying the beast in one blow as he smiled with satisfaction. With a triumphant smile, he returned carrying the massive beast, announcing it as tonight's meal. Quina sighed at the sight, realizing their food supply would involve preparing roasted monster again. Zeed asked about Shira, who soon returned and quietly presented the sword she had discovered. They examined it together, but none of them recognized its origin or why it felt significant afterward. The three shared a meal by the fire, enjoying the peaceful moment under darkness. Around the fire, Shira and Quina discussed how Zeed once survived eating monster corpses alone. It was unthinkable for a child to survive here without being extraordinarily strong from the start. Memories of struggling against even weak goblins resurfaced, suggesting survival required more than just willpower alone. He lay awake under the stars, reflecting on childhood and the truths hidden in his past. Suddenly, a woman's voice screamed from memory, urging him to run before something terrible reached him. Shouts echoed behind them as 2 boys fled, fear tightening with every step they took. Dead monsters littered the forest floor, while terrified children scrambled for safety, adrenaline driving their flight, breath ragged and steps faltering. His body burned from within, hunger clawing deeper into his core. Tears streamed down his face, legs gave out, and despair crushed him into the dirt. A towering shadow loomed over the collapsed child, sword drawn, watching silently under the moonlight. Rustling leaves caught his attention as he quickly turned, sensing movement beyond the darkened forest edge. A mysterious presence deep within the forbidden forest stirs memories and unease among the gathered adventurers. Zaid reflects on the moment someone saved him from death, giving him time to gain strength. The group questions who could have helped, as no powerful ally was near when they escaped. Speculations arise whether that person disappeared after ensuring Zaid's survival, knowing something important about his past. Though his memory remains faint, Zaid sketches the face he vaguely recalls in the dirt below. Zaid wonders if the strange figure is human. Shira suggests they investigate the nearby ground thoroughly. Quina notes surviving alone in a forbidden forest implies the person is likely an experienced rank. The group discusses Zaid's guild card, which he summons while trembling, puzzled by his own reaction. He remembers the meeting of the strongest adventurers is scheduled tomorrow and feels growing anticipation. Meanwhile, Lif enjoys the tense air, seated confidently as elite adventurers gather around her in silence. Lif presents her specialty tea blend, prompting cautious but curious expressions from Shiara and the others. Quina expresses distrust toward others' offerings, while Lif proudly recommends milk tea to lighten the atmosphere. He arrives late to the meeting, surprised by the group's serious mood and heavy expectations. After apologizing, he awkwardly introduces himself to Lif, who observes him silently with a calm gaze. Seated across from her, Zaid shares his guild role while she quietly responds with her name, Yui. Smiling nervously, Zaid tries to stay composed as the tension in the room begins rising. Everyone sits facing forward. Doubts are quietly exchanged about whether this group can truly form a team. Lif declares the formation of the strongest adventurer party, her voice brimming with pride and certainty. She announces the four as Shield of Hope, a name meant to inspire courage and unity. Explaining her choice, Lif claims their role is to protect all who seek help without discrimination. Phila questions the name's weight, while others admire it, calling it impressive and fitting the group. Lif prepares formal introductions, noting some still don't know one another, despite their elite positions and history. Solia, the Holy Star Saint, and Philly, the Sword Saint, are introduced from the Republic. Zaid is presented as the guild's first-rank adventurer, while Yui receives special recommendation from royalty. Lif proudly declares their team a dream lineup, filled with true strength and unwavering reputations across nations. She suggests that accepting shared missions will help deepen trust and build unity among the party members. Their first task is declared: explore and conquer the underground dungeon known as Ilbeck. Hearing the name shocks some. Memories or rumors about that place clearly linger in their minds. Ilbeck, once a Demon King's base, still retains its functions despite being long abandoned and feared. Originally built for war, Ilbeck now swarms with monsters, functioning like a cursed, living underground fortress. Compared to Ilbeck, previous dungeons were minor threats. The group begins to understand the looming danger. Philo recalls a past disaster where monsters escaped Ilbeck, devastating a village despite strong resistance from elites. Solia explains previous investigations failed. Ilbeck's magical creatures and sealed areas make it dangerously unpredictable and mysterious. New intelligence reveals Ilbeck's layout was found among a demon noble's belongings after the recent dark incident. Even Solia and Philo were unaware of this intel, proving how deep Lif's network reaches across nations. A magical device can halt Ilbeck's core systems, disabling the entire base if properly activated. Cutting off its mana flow also stops monster activity, rendering the dungeon's threat completely neutralized. That mechanism was originally installed as a failsafe, designed for emergency use if the base were seized. Lif formally requests the group accept this dangerous but vital mission as their first official assignment. Solia explains Ilbeck repeatedly harmed the Republic. Disabling it would fulfill their long-held hope for peace. Zaid agrees without objection to the Ilbeck mission, and Yui calmly expresses the same support. Lif confirms the entire team is on board. Their first mission as Shield of Hope begins. All four receive final words of encouragement, standing together as a united party for the first time. Outside the carriage, Zeed wonders about Yui's absence as departure preparations quietly move ahead. Solia explains Yui's background, hinting she belonged to Vera Empire's secret unit and remains hard to read. Judging from her movements, everyone agrees Yui possesses refined skill and shows no signs of hesitation. Solia awkwardly thanks Zide for his help during the prayer hall incident, offering a personal gift. He waves it off casually, but Phil glares coldly, warning him not to disgrace Solia again. In response, he jokingly requests the tastiest local food instead, which Solia happily agrees to provide. Zide reflects quietly, sensing that while friendship won't come easily, cooperation is finally starting to form. As the two women waited, he responded with a smile, ready to move forward. Approaching the group slowly, he silently wished for lasting harmony among future companions and missions. A flash of memory surfaced, her face firm yet unreadable, silently entering his thoughts again. Yui suddenly appeared, confronting him directly with tension rising in the air between them. A chilling question pierced the silence, her gaze unflinching as he stared back stunned. Cheers erupted as Eid and his party arrived, hailed as heroes by the entire gathered crowd. Banners with their names fluttered high while supporters shouted excitedly, celebrating the return of the champions. Yui stepped into view, expression calm but distant, as Zed turned and called out to her. The group reunited, exchanging brief remarks. Behind their smiles, they recognized the weight of the coming task. Realizing Ilbek's fate depended on them, Zide vowed silently to conquer the dungeon without hesitation. Solia smiled confidently beside Zed, basking in cheers as the shield of hope was celebrated. Philil analyzed the kingdom's strategy, realizing Solia's popularity was politically exploited to strengthen the party's image. The rocky cliffs loomed in the distance, and soon the dungeon's dark entrance came into view. Their footsteps halted before Ilbek's massive crater, where darkness swallowed everything. This was the beginning of danger. Without hesitation, Jito rappelled downward, while Zaid and Solia prepared gear to follow into the dungeon's depths. Concern grew as Jito descended first. Solia and Philil peered down, worried by the darkness below. Jito's voice echoed back, reassuring them it was safe. The others began carefully climbing down together. Zed inspected the dungeon's entrance, trusting the layout, but misjudged and triggered a hidden collapsing floor trap. They regrouped in caution, realizing the blueprint held flaws. Preparation became vital before proceeding any further. A monstrous creature blocked their path near the exit. Survival depended on defeating it without hesitation. Zide lunged forward to shield Solia as the monster suddenly charged from behind with ferocious speed. A massive claw swept through the air. Yui leapt, intercepting the beast before it struck. Her blade tore clean through its flesh, splitting the monstrous creature apart with one decisive counterattack. Everyone watched as Yui landed with precision, unwavering eyes and presence that silenced the shaken group. She stood over the defeated beast. Calm returned, and they prepared to move deeper without hesitation. Phil advised caution in the fragile passage. Zide nodded, reminded not to shoulder everything alone. A sense of unity formed. They raised their voices together, committing to conquer Ilbek as one. Yui remained quiet, watching Solia charge forward, covered in blood, but unyielding against another wave. Solia dispatched several creatures. Pia prepared healing magic, while Phil stood ready to protect their position. A goblin leapt from behind, but was swiftly caught before landing a blow on anyone. Monster remains were collected and cleared. For now, the group treated it more like pest control. According to the map, a magical device for destroying the dungeon might exist deeper ahead. Their path split into two distinct routes, forcing them to consider temporary separation for efficiency. Solia suggested pairing off to search. Zed agreed and took Yui, while others chose opposite passage. Steps echoed through narrow halls as Zed and Yui ventured forward, searching for anything unusual inside. Zide greeted Yui with a smile, but her silence made the atmosphere quietly tense between them. He struggled to start conversation. Together they walked deeper into the structure without exchanging any words. Their path led into a wide chamber, empty and quiet, unlike the corridors they passed. While observing the area, Yui called Zide's name, her gaze focused with a serious expression. She finally broke the silence, asking if he remembered anything about the Holy Republic. Yui questioned Zaid's decision to reject an invitation from Luina of the Empire's side. He admitted loyalty to his current guild, showing no desire to leave or abandon his companions. Without warning, Yui struck him hard in the side, throwing Zaid off balance in shock. The blow caused a controlled explosion, scattering debris as Zaid stood, confused by her sudden aggression. She confessed her true orders: eliminate Zaid if recruitment failed, following Luina's absolute command without hesitation. Jido sensed danger as Yui dashed toward Zaid, tension rising with no time to react. A sudden burst of speed shocked everyone watching. Her movements surpassed normal human limits by far. Zaid turned just in time to see Yui's blade already swinging toward his chest. He narrowly avoided the strike, using a burst of magic power to escape the direct hit. From above, the room trembled as magical energy pulsed outward, shaking the entire battlefield violently. Zaid pleaded with Yui to stop, insisting allies shouldn't be forced to fight each other. She responded coldly, offering one option: join the Wera Empire if he wanted to survive this. Solia and the others arrived, interrupting the tension. Yui hesitated, sensing a shift in momentum. Jido tried to cover the noise with an excuse, while Solia remained focused and suspicious. Sudden tremor spread through the floor. Walls shifted unnaturally. This wasn't destruction. The entire dungeon was moving. Collapsed stone shifted, revealing a towering mechanical figure, its eyes glowing ominously in the darkness. Everyone stared upward, stunned as the realization hit. This wasn't a chamber, but a giant body. The massive golem rose to full height, debris falling as tremors shook the surrounding floor. A nervous smile crept across his face, shocked by the sheer size of their opponent. Luina launched forward, slicing through metal limbs as sparks flew from the golem's armored joints. Despite clean strikes, the enemy regenerated quickly, forcing Zaid to retreat while scanning for weak points. Towering above, the golem advanced without pause, its massive blade dragging across the shattered ground ominously. Realizing the danger, Zaid stepped in front of his ally and ordered her to move back immediately. He calculated one misstep might collapse the entire building, but resolved to act before destruction spread. The group prepared for retreat, but Zaid stepped forward silently, clenching his fist with new resolve. He launched himself upward, aiming his flaming punch directly at the golem's head with unrelenting force. Everyone watched in shock as the blow failed, the golem unharmed, continuing its march without flinching. Zaid approached the others calmly, but blood dripped from his fingers, showing the cost of failure. While forcing a smile, he admitted magical attacks had no effect, and a new plan was needed. Zaid explained his drained magic calmly, thanking his allies while realizing the threat was far from over. He revealed the golem absorbed magic on contact, stealing everything he had stored in his fist. The golem resumed its relentless approach, forcing the red-haired warrior to shout a desperate warning to evade. Although slow, its strength was unmatched, and nothing they tried seemed to leave a scratch on it. Without hesitation, Yui charged in alone, slicing rapidly across its armor with speed none could follow. Zaid and his companion watched in awe as Yui's rapid strikes began overwhelming the golem. A precise blow landed on its chest, shattering armor and revealing a hidden core glowing faintly. Despite damage, the golem regenerated quickly, forcing Yui to disengage and reassess her attack approach mid-battle. She realized the core embedded in its chest controlled regeneration and needed to be destroyed directly. Reaching that conclusion, the group discussed how even Zaid's power couldn't penetrate deep enough to reach the core. Solia hesitated, fearing her power might harm the team more than help in this situation. Staring at the golem ahead, Zaid considered channeling Solia's energy as their final coordinated move. He asked for Yui and Philo's support, believing their combined strength could pierce the regenerating core. Together, the group prepared, standing side by side with renewed focus as the enemy loomed closer. Weapons drawn and minds aligned, the party advanced, trusting Zaid's plan to bring the golem down. With roles confirmed, Zaid gave the signal, and everyone launched into the final coordinated plan. Philo moved first, attacking the legs to destabilize the golem before it could counter. Yui followed up, striking with precision and tearing through the protective armor surrounding the exposed core. Her relentless assault weakened its center, allowing Zaid and Solia to approach together without hesitation, spotting their moment. They clasped hands, ready to unleash their combined magic directly into the core. Zaid explained the plan clearly: store magic in their legs, leap, and strike with everything. They held each other tightly, gathering power beneath their feet as magical energy surged through their bodies. Launching upward, they dodged the golem's massive fist and closed in on the exposed core. Even as it regenerated, they aimed directly at its center, unwavering and determined to break through together. They shattered the chest open, piercing the core completely and ending the golem's regeneration cycle. Solia and Zaid's combined strike crushed the core completely, triggering the golem's irreversible collapse. Relieved allies gathered near the fallen enemy, confirming that the magical core had stopped functioning entirely. Celebration broke out as Zaid lifted Solia joyfully, declaring the Ilvec dungeon mission a complete success. News of the victory spread rapidly. Reporters shouted headlines, praising the team known as Hope's Shield. Amid the cheers, a lone armored figure watched from afar, clenching his fist silently before walking away. Watching the news, a man murmured proudly, realizing Zaid had truly become an S-rank adventurer. He looked at the photo with softened eyes, remembering the teammates who once fought by his side. Zaid stood silently before the queen's portrait, his clenched fists filled with burning determination. In the guild library, Zaid searched through books, startled as Lif called out his name. He explained his search for a mysterious man remembered only from the Forbidden Forest. Lif dismissed the crude sketch, but offered another lead in a distant scholar's kingdom. Excited, Lif pointed toward the map of Steel Beat's kingdom, brimming with academic promise. Zaid arrived in the vibrant kingdom, noticing how different it felt compared to Kuzira. He heard a familiar voice calling out. Turning, Zaid smiled wide upon seeing Weeg again. They reunited warmly, exchanging words about old times and Quina's tireless efforts back in Kuzira. Weeg offered guidance to the library, noting how much the city's architecture had recently changed. While walking together, Weeg explained Steel Beats' values: open learning, creative growth, and deep-rooted cultural pride. Tempted by the scent, he eagerly nodded and bit into the freshly grilled skewer. Juicy meat with citrus seasoning refreshed his palate as laughter echoed between friendly teasing remarks. Eyes widened in awe, he stepped into the National Library's grand, towering halls of knowledge. Stacks of categorized records stretched endlessly, offering a real chance to trace the mystery man's origin. Despite vast archives, vague memory, and missing name, made identifying the forest man nearly impossible. They refined the search, focusing on books from specific regions and decades near the forest. An overwhelming number of records surfaced, all connected to the forest during the targeted time frame. Though daunting in scope, they decided to begin calmly, confident time was on their side. Weeg departed for official duties, thanking him sincerely for pushing forward, despite how difficult things seemed. Library staff joined in to assist, allowing deeper research without slowing Zaid's determined investigation efforts. Support staff offered to clear finished books, allowing him to keep focus without distraction. After reading many records, he realized something drastically changed within the forest years ago. He began questioning whether his disappearance and the forest's evolution were somehow connected events. More newspapers arrived. One article mentioned an unknown boy rescued near the forest boundary. As he read further, memories stirred of when the knights first discovered and sheltered him. While flipping pages, a photograph caught his eye and triggered a sudden, sharp sense of familiarity. Other staff mentioned his non-stop focus, impressed by how long he'd been reading without rest. Evening approached unnoticed as he showed Weeg the paper, something about it gripping his attention. He stood up, voice firm, declaring the man in the article was the one involved. Memories resurfaced. Clearly, this stranger had rescued him in the forest during those lost, fragmented days. Weeg scanned the records with urgency, certain he had seen that face somewhere long ago. His memory clicked into place upon finding a clearer article, matching the man exactly. The rescuer's identity was revealed: Reuter, a famed adventurer once known as the strongest alive. News of Reuter's name stunned them both, raising questions about his whereabouts and current purpose. Uncertain where to begin searching, they agreed to consult Lif for clues about Reuter. Zaid asked about Reuter's location, but Lif explained his current whereabouts were completely unknown. Even the guild had lost track. Reuter vanished and now moved independently without fixed ties. Despite no clear lead, Lif promised to notify Zaid if new information ever surfaced. Disappointment surfaced briefly, as Zaid accepted they might not meet Reuter anytime soon. A risky alternative surfaced. Lif considered involving the Hero Association, though its consequences remained uncertain. An informant suggested that someone named Luina from the Empire might know Reuter's whereabouts. Zaid listened closely as the Empire's pattern of recruiting powerful adventurers became more apparent. Rumors claimed Luina's elite intelligence team tracked powerful individuals, possibly including Reuter himself. With new resolve, Zaid silently committed to heading toward the influential and mysterious Wera Empire. Within the Empire, military leaders gathered, including Fom Marl Reuter, hidden in plain sight as a commander. During introductions, several high-ranking captains, revealed distinct personalities, and tensions began subtly surfacing between them. Rumors spread about recent promotions, shifting dynamics within the units and quietly stirring resentment among officers. Some praised the merit-based system, while others quietly questioned fairness behind sudden leadership changes. Tension thickened as subtle jabs flew at the new captain, cloaked behind smiles and etiquette. Without reacting, Yui left to summon Luina, signaling the meeting's true purpose was approaching. A stern warning was given: one misstep in hierarchy could lead to immediate demotion. Luina awaited the report, calmly seated as the arrival of her commanders was announced. Without hesitation, she gave the order to proceed, confident and unshaken by the situation. Yui followed silently as Luina stepped forward, signaling their next decisive move had begun. Doubts stirred among those watching, questioning whether Luina truly intended to carry out her plan. Assured of their target, he gripped his shoulder and confirmed there were no further threats. Confidence surging, he raised his voice and announced their departure toward the Wera Empire's heart. Zaid received a final warning about the Empress of Wera before departing on mission. After exchanging nods with allies, Zaid confidently stepped forward, heading alone into the dark tunnel. Despite the late hour, Zaid showed no hesitation. Urgency burned behind his composed expression. He rejected any delays, choosing to head for Wera immediately without rest or preparation. With clear resolve in his voice, Zaid declared he would depart that very night. Zaid explained he wasn't rushing blindly, he simply enjoyed thinking and acting on his own. A genuine smile appeared on his face. Facing the unknown filled him with excitement. Zaid's sincerity left an impression. Even hardened warriors found themselves wanting to support his journey. Elsewhere, Luina prepared her forces, confident and calm. She gathered allies under her command. A formal report was being delivered, yet Luina's mind was already ahead, anticipating complications. Luina gathered her subordinates, not for routine matters, but to address a far more urgent concern. Without preamble, she confronted the group directly, stating her intent to question them all. A cold declaration, followed. Someone present had begun scheming rebellion against her from within the ranks. Everyone stiffened at the accusation. Some met her gaze, others averted their eyes in silence. One subordinate voiced doubt, but Luina confirmed the suspect held command and considerable influence over squads. Luina admitted she could govern a nation, but warfare still exhausted everyone, including herself. A subordinate acknowledged discontent among the ranks, especially regarding how Yui had been treated. With sharp eyes, Luina ordered them to expose traitors, demanding evidence and responsible leaders. A calm officer assured her that even traitors, if useful, held value to the Empire. Different opinions clashed. Strength alone didn't justify leadership, and some questioned whether all accusations were legitimate. Among the officers, tension spread. Some began weighing which side offered the most advantage. Luina concluded the meeting and dismissed them. She left without hesitation, calm and composed. In the corridor, she called out to Yui. Her expression was unreadable, voice steady. Without softening her words, Luina reminded Yui she was not exempt from suspicion or consequences. Elsewhere, soldiers watched the central platform as whispers spread and suspicions grew among various ranks. Two soldiers revisited the previous day's meeting, questioning the seriousness behind Luina's traitor accusations. Zone dismissed the idea entirely. To him, the discussion about betrayal held no interest. Amusement surfaced between them. One considered using the opportunity to rise quickly in rank. Warning followed. Any traitor acting carelessly before rebelling must be foolish or overly confident. Mocking tone stirred tension. Another voice challenged their logic, prompting laughter and a sudden confrontation. Amid the noisy hall, one man murmured about incompetence, while silently observing the gathering. Laughter filled the room as Riabel made a bold entrance, full of loud confidence. Celebration erupted for Riabel's upcoming position. Some questioned the timing. Others eagerly joined the party. One woman teased she could be the traitor. Riabel dismissed the idea with humor. Without hesitation, he declared her innocent. She smiled faintly, comforted by his blind trust. Surrounded by laughter, the woman forced a smile, hiding pain from the others' careless jokes. Gripping her shoulder tightly, she silently vowed to uncover the traitor lurking within their ranks. Meanwhile, Zaid coughed blood but stayed strong. Having just rescued an old woman from danger, grateful for her safety, she apologized. Zaid reassured her, appreciating the food and conversation. The elder explained their empire's progress, praising merit over age as Zaid listened with interest. Old woman wondered if kind-hearted youths like Zaid had vanished from the nation entirely. As the capital appeared in view, Zaid smiled, carrying hope with every steady step. Standing before the imperial gates, Zaid looked up at Wera Empire, heart braced for change. Upon entering, curious stares followed him. Calmly, he stepped forward, confidence unfazed by silent whispers. Even officials doubted his rank, shocked by the rare rank card he silently presented. Suspicion grew. None believed someone so casual could truly hold the rank of class adventurer. Nearby guards overheard the doubts and stormed in, demanding to meet the mysterious high-ranked intruder. Zaid revealed his connection to the Republic. The older officer recognized the name and stiffened. Tension rose quickly. One soldier mocked him, suggesting offering Zaid would earn favor with Luina. After some banter, they acknowledged his identity and allowed passage, finally recognizing him as authentic. Requesting an audience with Luina, Zaid explained himself, facing a sharp shift in tone. One soldier leaned in, asserting his authority, warning Zaid to follow this nation's customs strictly. Pushed further, Zaid hesitated. The soldier challenged his manners, demanding a show of proper respect. After apologizing, Zaid was finally allowed to proceed. The officer turned satisfied with his reaction. Before leaving, Zaid urgently asked again if meeting Lady Luina was truly possible now. Zaid insisted on speaking with Luina, but was told direct access wasn't possible or permitted. Though advised to submit paperwork, no guarantee existed it would actually reach Luina herself. Frustration set in. He regretted rushing forward and ignoring Weig's advice about careful preparation. Resolving to move ahead anyway, he stepped forward, prepared to take whatever risk was necessary. Behind a door, a woman recognized him instantly. Her voice trembled as she said, "Zaid." Zaid returned with a confident smile, waving energetically after a long time apart from Yui. Yui silently faced him, curious yet guarded, as Zaid hinted at an important favor he needed. Seated across the table, Zaid revealed his request. He wanted to meet the elusive Luina again. While sipping tea, Yui listened as Zaid explained the missing rank adventurer he desperately needed to find. Without hesitation, Yui coldly refused his offer to negotiate, leaving Zaid stunned and speechless in disbelief. Yui rejected the request harshly, reminding Zaid that personal favors weren't part of Luina's duties. With no other option, Zaid offered his help, but Yui walked away without acknowledging his words. Later, they entered a crowded hall, where Yui's stern presence immediately caught everyone's cautious and silent attention. Noticing the tension, Zaid asked what was happening, and Yui responded coldly she was investigating something. The crowd grew nervous as someone accused Yui of interrogating, fearing her intimidating gaze more than her words. Crowds turned as a loudmouth officer barged in, spotting Yui and instantly provoking unnecessary tension. He loudly mocked her achievements, labeling her rank undeserved and a threat to his own ambition. Without hesitation, she launched an explosive strike, sending him flying before he could finish his smug rant. Zaid stared, confused by the chaos, while Yui casually dismissed the attacker as nothing but foolish noise. Grinning with wild certainty, the officer pointed at her, declaring she must be the elusive Kuro. Confused by the accusation, Zaid questioned the logic. while the officer insisted on dragging Yui away. Before she could be seized, Zed stepped forward, grabbing the officer's arm to stop his advance. His interference backfired quickly as the officer accused him of being Yui's traitorous accomplice, without evidence. With swift precision, Zed retaliated, launching a powerful strike that sent the aggressor flying through the air. Momentum shifted instantly when Zed landed a finishing blow, leaving the man overwhelmed and unable to respond further. Realizing the broken horn was evidence, the officer decided confronting Yui directly was now unavoidable. Zed stood up, shaken but calm, warning that reckless actions in crowded areas posed serious consequences. He urged a proper discussion instead of assumptions, calling out the unfairness of one-sided accusations and force. The officer responded with sudden violence, shouting agreement while delivering a powerful blow to Zed's unguarded chest. Laughing wildly, he absorbed the impact, taunted Zed again, and invited him to strike harder without restraint. Zed charged forward, warning the officer he'd take responsibility for whatever happened next in this clash. Yui watched the commotion unfold, unimpressed by the loud destruction caused by two reckless idiots fighting. Tension spread again as nearby men fought violently, prompting Yui to resume investigating with a sigh. Unexpectedly, both fighters laughed together after exchanging blows, their tension replaced by mutual respect and awkward friendship. Introductions followed with firm handshakes, while Yui muttered under her breath, unimpressed by the two fools. Rival apologized for doubting Yui, concluding Zed couldn't possibly be aligned with any real traitors. A deeper explanation followed, revealing Yui's mission to identify a traitor among military leadership ranks. Zed offered to help again, confident his personality could draw information more easily than Yui's approach. Yui quietly observed him, unsure if it was charisma or chaos that kept drawing people near. With her mind made up, she accepted Zed's help in uncovering the hidden traitor's identity. A firm handshake sealed their partnership, marking the start of their mission to uncover the traitor. Yui led the way confidently while Zed followed, parting with Rival, who cheerfully waved them off. As they walked through town, Zed casually commented on the noticeable presence of women in uniform. Local soldiers explained that strength mattered more than gender, especially in the Empire's elite all-female defense unit. Rumors pointed toward Sumera of the Third Army, a popular commander with growing influence and support. Suspicion fell on Sumera, who had insulted Luina publicly, and seemed to dislike Yui's promotion. Others in command, including Rival, Sumera, and Fomv, didn't accept Yui's authority or trust her leadership. Zed noted that the captains came from scattered nations, making loyalties and intentions harder to predict. Yui began listing each squad leader, Rival, Sumera, and Fourth, noting roles, rumors, and attitudes carefully. Additional names like Irats and Fomv were introduced, completing the list of military leaders under suspicion. Yui explained that Bashna had just been reassigned, but she held stronger influence as acting commander. Zed considered the suspects listed earlier and asked if they'd investigate all of them regardless. They agreed to begin with Sumera, the most suspicious, and immediately headed to her current location. Inside a quiet room, Sumera calmly tended to a patient, offering care and casual conversation. Moments later, an aide entered urgently, announcing someone had come looking for Sumera by name. Sumera was informed that Yui and the adventurer had come to question her directly. While preparing herself, she speculated they might suspect her and feared damage to her current status. She entered the room calmly, masking suspicion, and asked why she was being visited so suddenly. Recognition struck instantly upon seeing Zed, and her composed expression cracked into shock at his unexpected presence. Yui and Zed faced the sudden arrival of a woman, urgently warning them about danger. Both turned toward her, confusion rising as her trembling lips struggled to deliver a crucial message. Suddenly, she grabbed Zed's collar with shining eyes, blurting out admiration that caught everyone off guard. Zed introduced himself awkwardly while Sumera gushed. Yui interrupted coldly, mentioning betrayal and seeking answers about recent movements. Sumera stiffened at the accusation. Yui stayed firm, demanding truth before tensions escalated beyond control. He pleaded to prove Sumera's innocence. She hesitated, then agreed, heart-pounding with strange excitement. Though she disliked Yui, Sumera admitted she didn't believe Yui was a traitor after all. Yui's status and connections made betrayal difficult. Resources and manpower to execute such plans were clearly lacking. After a pause, Sumera firmly declared her own innocence, insisting she wasn't involved in anything underhanded either. She recalled past military failures, pleading for reforms. Leadership finally acknowledged her ideas and agreed to support action. Sumera bowed in silence, requesting approval. The noblewoman approached, questioning the sanitation unit's true importance. Permission was granted to explain. Hearing her name, Sumera stiffened under the intense gaze of Princess Luina. While walking together, Luina listened carefully. Sumera described the harsh conditions and desperate needs at the battlefield. The princess finally acknowledged the importance of emergency care. She asked Sumera's name with sudden pointed interest. Luina offered no promises, only a command. Wait 5 years and be ready when duty calls. 5 years passed. Luina's coronation approached. Soldiers discussed promotions while continuing duties across the growing empire. Sumera managed her unit calmly. A sudden commotion erupted as messengers rushed in, calling her name. News arrived swiftly. Luina had intervened directly. A major restructuring was underway within the Third Army. She was to lead once more. Reinstated officially as commander of the newly formed Sanitation Division. Tears welled in her eyes. Surrounded by comrades, Sumera embraced a future shaped by Luina's trust. Thanks to Luina's support, the Sanitation Corps gained resources. Casualties across the empire significantly dropped. No longer defensive, Sumera offered her records. Her loyalty was clear, and she welcomed deeper scrutiny. A misunderstanding followed. Yui denied any relationship with Zaid, clarifying their alliance through a shared adventuring party. They prepared to head towards Central Command. Sumera gave directions, and the group moved with quiet resolve. As Yui walked ahead, Sumera observed her again, distant, composed, and still difficult to approach. Zaid enthusiastically expressed Yui's gratitude, leaving Sumera flustered but smiling at his sincere appreciation. As they walked, Zaid asked questions about the Central District, receiving curt but informative answers from Yui. Crowds filled the open plaza. Citizens and officials mingled in a structured, busy government-operated public space. A receptionist greeted Yui respectfully. Zaid watched quietly while she prepared to assist with the upcoming meeting. Yui confirmed Zaid's presence was fine. The room awaited documents concerning Sumera's recent military activities and records. Conversation shifted toward Foth, a commander handling military finances. Suspicion about internal movements began to grow. Yui speculated further. If Foth were a traitor, his weak presence made him easily overlooked. Unexpectedly, Foth entered the room. She clarified her comments were factual, not insults, despite his displeasure. Zaid introduced himself casually, explaining their investigation into traitors. Tension lingered as Foth evaluated their presence. Formal introduction followed. Foth delivered the documents, stating Sumera requested his cooperation through Yui beforehand. Foth, slightly irritated, delivered the documents and acknowledged Yui's blunt words as factual, not insulting. Before reviewing data, Foth asked Zaid to step out, unable to share military secrets externally. Yui analyzed the documents. Financial records revealed inconsistencies, suggesting hidden transactions and possible traitorous involvement by Foth. Rather than object, Foth coldly permitted the investigation, instructing them to continue until they were satisfied. As Yui left the room, she noticed a familiar figure standing alone in the corridor. A man recognized Zaid as Luina's favored Shrank adventurer and approached with casual confidence. Their conversation revealed both waited for someone. Zaid confirmed the newcomer belonged to the First Army unit. Discussion turned to Bashna. Zaid admitted they briefly fought, surprising the man with his unexpected connection. The soldier asked how Zaid knew Bashna's promotion. Zaid casually replied he'd learned from mutual acquaintances. Talk shifted to Elots, a skilled veteran. Despite his power, his background limited advancement under Luina's reign. Rumors suggested Elots used prisoners and deserters for disturbing purposes under the guise of interrogation. Whispers grew darker. Torture, beatings, and alleged executions were mentioned as part of his twisted behavior. Zaid hesitated, unsure if silence meant guilt. Regardless, he decided to keep this conversation from Yui. She returned earlier than expected. Without hesitation, she signaled Zeid and walked off to pursue something suspicious. Curious, Zeid followed quietly. Yui turned to confront Foth directly, stating she had business with him. Foth, showing concern, requested to review all documents related to the Second Army's operations. Zeid followed behind, surprised. Yui admitted nothing looked wrong, but something still felt off to her. Alarmed, she discovered critical documents missing. Luina's guard assignment records had vanished without explanation. A theory formed: someone erased data to exploit gaps and directly endanger Luina's safety. Far ahead, Luina stood alone. She sensed movement and called out to whoever was watching. Rustling bushes caught her attention as she turned sharply, sensing something moving near her perimeter. Without hesitation, Yui launched forward, determined to eliminate whoever endangered Luina's safety without mercy. Yui sprinted through the stone corridor with urgency. Zeid followed, shouting her name in alarm. Atop the royal balcony, Luina confronted the knight, her gaze sharp as she demanded answers. Calm but serious, the knight bowed slightly, stating he brought an urgent message for Lady Luina's ears. His words tightened, revealing the contents concerned a critical threat directly tied to Zeid's current mission. Luina's eyes narrowed. Without hesitation, she demanded the knight speak quickly and spare no detail. Basina lowered his head slightly, pretending humility, while his hand shifted subtly toward his sword's hilt. Without warning, he swung his blade, announcing his departure. Smoke burst outward, masking his immediate escape route. From above, Yui launched a surprise assault, blade drawn, eyes locked on the suspicious knight. He raised his massive sword and blocked her strike with ease, barely shifting from his stance. Landing firmly, Yui accused him directly, demanding answers and protection for Lady Luina's safety. Waiting until danger strikes would be too late. Yui insisted Luina's safety must come first. Basina's vague explanation faltered as Zeid reported classified defense data had vanished from the castle archives. Acknowledging his proximity to Luina during the breach, Basina smirked, admitting he reacted by targeting suspicion. Luina clarified the removal was intentional, meant to prevent traitors like Foss from exploiting classified details. Understanding her mistake, Yui bowed deeply in apology, and Luina gently assured her it was forgiven. Luina questioned Basina's earlier excuse, but he dodged further details and quickly excused himself from conversation. Inside the hall, Luina teased Zeid's return. He denied it, recalling the danger Yui recently faced. Though Zeid apologized, Luina admitted she'd ordered Yui's retrieval, regardless of risk or potential consequences. Zeid changed the subject, revealing he sought information about an S-rank adventurer named Reuter. After a pause, Luina agreed to reveal Reuter's location, but only if Zeid accepted her condition. Luina leaned close, proposing she'd reveal Reuter's location if Zeid agreed to belong solely to her. Rather than entertain that offer, he firmly stated he had no intention of leaving his guild. Disappointed but undeterred, Luina vowed she would eventually make Zeid hers, no matter his refusals. Yui explained she'd been ordered to assist Zeid while remaining under direct observation during the mission. If they could capture the traitor together, Luina promised to grant whatever request Zeid desired. Zeid brightened as Luina accepted the agreement. Yui bowed silently, prepared to assist without hesitation. A smirk formed as Luina whispered Zeid's name, clearly eager to watch him in action. With renewed energy, Zeid declared full commitment, determined to chase down leads and meet expectations properly. After regrouping, they discussed returning to Central to resume unfinished work and gather more intelligence. Conversation shifted to Fonv, a second army soldier who reportedly knew something about suspicious movements. Suspicious behavior from Ilats caught their attention, prompting Zeid and Yui to investigate possible hidden activity. Yui mentioned even she had overheard similar rumors while stationed briefly in the Wei Empire. Despite uncertainty, Fom emphasized everything was hearsay and lacked solid evidence to act on. They divided responsibilities. Yui would gather documents while Zeid directly investigated Ilats's recent movements. At the facility entrance, Zeid was welcomed politely and escorted inside, thanks to Yui's prior arrangements. Rumors painted Ilats as intimidating, and Zeid's nerves spiked the moment shouting echoed ahead. Ilats barked orders during training, demanding total focus and strict discipline from every gathered soldier. Information With unflinching intensity, he ordered 1,000 practice swings, setting a relentless pace without hesitation. After introductions, Zaid observed Elatz silently, quickly noting his intimidating presence and commanding authority. Attempting conversation, Zaid introduced himself, but Elatz coldly interrupted, dismissed him immediately, and ordered him to leave. Zaid attempted to explain his connection to Yui's investigation, hoping it would earn Elatz's interest. Without hesitation, Elatz dismissed him again, declaring training more important and calling Zaid an unwelcome distraction. While Zaid sat alone, the soldiers transitioned into mock combat, pairing up for the next session. As Elatz walked away, Zaid stood and pleaded for just a moment to speak further. Before Elatz could reply, a new soldier approached boldly, challenging him with sword in hand. Elatz narrowed his eyes as Zaid slowly drew his weapon with unwavering determination in his grip. Without hesitation, Zaid pointed his blade forward and formally challenged Elatz to a one-on-one duel. He declared his terms clearly. If victorious, Elatz must answer questions regarding the ongoing traitor investigation. Zaid confronted Elatz in the square, rejecting orders and demanding an explanation before everyone watching. With rising tension, Zaid pressed him for truth, asking if loyalty alone justified endless suffering. Elatz stayed silent, forcing Zaid to realize he hadn't thought deeply about his own resolve. He observed Zaid's hesitation without fear. His subordinates approached, unable to act with a crowd gathering. Knowing attention had shifted their way, Elatz reflected silently on Zaid's rebellion and its consequences. Elatz raised his blade with calm resolve, agreeing to duel Zaid and end the tension. Zaid's face lit up with gratitude, excited by the chance to finally prove his worth. Both took their stances. Elatz remained composed while Zaid burned with eagerness to strike first. Zaid lacked technique, but believed one good strike could end it if it hit cleanly. From a wide distance, Zaid charged recklessly. Elatz judged him a complete amateur at swordplay. Zaid's reckless slash tore into the ground, sending stone flying. Elatz reacted with surprised eyes. Dust exploded across the square. Zaid crouched confidently, assuming his destructive swing had ended everything instantly. Despite the uncertainty, Zaid felt his chance succeeded. One blow might be enough to win. A smoke cleared. Elatz calmly stepped through the flames, completely unharmed, blocking the attack effortlessly. While lecturing mid-battle, Elatz explained Zaid's spell wasted energy by dispersing too widely during release. Without hesitation, Zaid charged forward again, sword gripped tightly, eyes locked on Elatz's silhouette. His strike landed clean, yet Elatz deflected smoothly. Zaid followed with another swift horizontal attack. Multiple illusions surrounded Elatz at once, blades flashing in every direction with overwhelming pressure. Despite the flurry, Elatz remained untouched. Zaid realized he hadn't moved from that spot once. Determined to break through, Zaid attacked directly. Elatz anticipated everything, but something suddenly disrupted his focus. A sudden explosion of force sent shock through Elatz's face. Zaid's shoulder pulsed in pain. Before Zaid could react, his sword was struck. It shattered and flew from his hand. While Zaid collapsed in exhaustion, Elatz analyzed the burst of speed from unexpected magic acceleration. Explaining calmly, Zaid admitted stronger opponents weren't fooled. His trick wouldn't work on real masters. Elatz extended his hand. During break time, he agreed to finally hear Zaid's story out. After the duel, they shook hands and sat down. Elatz asked what Zaid wanted. Struggling to phrase things properly, Zaid hesitated. Elatz urged him to speak before time ran out. Zaid asked about the traitor incident. Elatz replied coldly, saying he held no personal interest. Changing the subject, Zaid pointed at something in Elatz's pocket, curious about its strange shape. He revealed it was a memento from an old friend, long gone but never forgotten. Reflecting on past mistakes, Elatz spoke sternly, determined never to repeat what once happened. Zaid sensed deeper meaning in Elatz's words, but the officer quickly ended the conversation and left. He asked to explore the facility. Elatz permitted access, except for the weapons storage area. Nearby soldiers discussed Elatz, describing him as strict, serious, and feared even by his peers. Others whispered disturbing rumors, some calling him sadistic, though no one dared confirm the truth openly. Whispers spread that someone had demon blood. Others claimed his gaze could turn people to stone. Zaid wandered uncertainly through the facility, overwhelmed by strange rumors and unsettling tension in the air. Inside a dusty, unused room, he sensed something odd and paused after noticing something unexpected. Faint grooves in the floor caught his attention. Their unnatural alignment seemed deliberately hidden beneath dust. Meanwhile, another group exchanged documents. Cold words passed between them, devoid of warmth or emotion. Suspicion grew as the woman pointed out major budget discrepancies between the second and third divisions. Discrepancies couldn't be dismissed. They suspected intentional inflation and potential embezzlement hidden behind falsified numbers. If fourth was responsible, oversight had collapsed. Such power allowed unchecked actions without resistance. Dismissing the theory, fourth showed irritation. He claimed accusations were too absurd to defend against. She insisted the anomaly couldn't be ignored. If not fourth, another traitor existed within fourth division. Silence filled the room. Neither spoke further, tension lingering between the two over accusations. Elsewhere, darkness closed in. Zed followed faint markings, unaware something hidden was about to emerge. Behind the bookshelf, a sealed door stood alone. Its presence disturbed the air around him. Reaching out, he noticed the door had been purposely hidden. This wasn't ordinary storage access. Opening it revealed stairs leading downward. Zaid's pulse quickened as he prepared to descend alone. A sharp, musty scent filled his nose as he stepped further into the dark hallway. A trail of dried blood extended across the floor, leading deeper into the shadowy room. Heart racing, he froze in place, unable to comprehend what had been hidden below. They questioned the guards, learning someone suspicious had recently asked about Ilatz's location. Acting cautiously, the soldier agreed to guide them, hiding tension behind a forced smile and stiff posture. Outside, Zaid discovered a bloodstain on the ground, confirming his fear that violence had occurred here. Disturbed by the volume of blood, Zaid rose quickly, alerted by approaching footsteps echoing through the hall. Ilatz arrived with urgency, demanding answers as Zaid pointed toward the empty room concealing something dangerous inside. Doors burst open as Ilatz stormed in, only to find Zaid pretending to lounge carelessly inside. Feigning clumsiness, he claimed darkness caused his fall, while offering excuses and awkward laughter to deflect suspicion. Ilatz, unimpressed, cut him off and coldly suggested outsiders like Zaid should start leaving immediately, reluctantly stepping out. Zaid agreed to leave, hiding his annoyance behind a calm expression and quiet steps. Without further comment, Ilatz declined help, ordering subordinates back to work, while keeping his thoughts tightly guarded. While inspecting the room, Ilatz paused, noticing something left behind on the wooden floorboards beneath him. Seeing Zaid's determination earlier resurfaced a memory. Ilatz quietly whispered his name, suspicion growing in his eyes. Outside, Zaid regrouped with allies. One mentioned visitors were coming, prompting Yui to turn and listen. Concerned about secrecy, Yui reassured him she could protect Luina without needing further explanation or interference. Zaid reported back, stating the soldiers revealed little. His search into Ilatz's background remained incomplete for now. Rumors of a blood-stained stairwell confused them. No record of such a room ever existed. Yui speculated it might be Ilatz's private space, possibly hidden under the pretense of training facilities. Suspicion deepened as they recalled Ilatz's odd mood when Zaid was forced out earlier that day. Although unsure of the link, they agreed to investigate. Every clue mattered, no matter how small. While Yui examined records, Zaid asked about inconsistencies she noticed buried in the document's suspicious numbers. While walking with Yui, Zaid considered the possibility that someone had tampered with military records. Yui found it hard to believe Foz missed the numerical errors. His behavior seemed suspicious. Returning to base, Foz instructed a subordinate to collect leftover materials still in the conference room. After securing privacy, he locked the door and muttered about the investigation becoming increasingly troublesome. Flipping through altered documents, he criticized the poor forgery work that could be noticed instantly. Foz leaned back confidently, unconcerned by exposure, fully aware of his control within the organization. Meanwhile, Zed and Yui were confused by the guards' sudden refusal to let them pass. Guards explained Elatz's orders strictly forbade anyone, including officers, from entering that restricted section without direct approval. Apologizing briefly, Zide stepped away, unsure what to do next as the entrance remained tightly guarded. A new ally approached, and casually vouched for Zide, reminding everyone of his special connections and favor. Reluctantly, the guards repeated Elatz's orders, but the elf seemed skeptical, something wasn't being fully disclosed. To shift attention, he stepped in and proposed handling the issue while covering for everyone else. They played along with the suggestion, casually exiting together as if heading out for a shared meal. Zide and Yui, led by their companion, found themselves staring at an enormous spread of food. While Zide eagerly dug in, Yui remained still, silently observing the situation with cautious disinterest. Yui mentioned she suspected Foz knew something, which led her to confront him directly. The elf explained he saw Foz near the facility late, likely searching for Ilatz without permission. Quietly, he admitted suspicion. A growing belief that Ilatz might be the traitor haunted his thoughts. Yui shared data from the 2nd and 4th divisions. Budget allocations and supply counts didn't match. They speculated Foz may be using Ilatz's authority to orchestrate plans for personal gain or manipulation. Zed recalled a disturbing report: Ilatz returned alone from a mission where his entire squad disappeared. 15 years ago, Ilatz and Matthias were praised as elites leading young soldiers into the Empire's future. Only Ilatz came back, wounded, silent, and carrying Matthias's severed arm through the storm. Zed and Yui pressed for answers, but no explanation ever came for the squad's vanishing. When asked, Ilatz only said one thing: everyone else was gone without a trace. During a deadly operation, the entire squad vanished without trace, except one man returned alone. Years ago, Ilatz and Matthias led elite forces until one mission shattered everything they built. After days missing, Iratz came back alone, gripping Matthias's severed arm in his hand. When questioned about survivors, Iratz gave no explanation, only said everyone else had disappeared completely. Inside Matthias's severed hand was his watch, kept as a memento by returning Iratz. Blood splattered across the staircase caught his attention, compelling him to investigate what lay ahead. Possibly unrelated, but the blood might link to Ilatz's mysterious rumors and concealed past actions. Suspicion grew. Ilatz had intentionally blocked their earlier entry, hiding something crucial within the barracks. He offered help, promising access inside, and insisting on investigating the staircase together for answers. Trust was granted temporarily, united by purpose. The three prepared to uncover the buried secret. They stood before the door, mentally preparing to uncover what secrets might lie beyond. With confidence and a grin, Fomv called out their names, rallying the group into action. As Fomv marched ahead, Yui questioned his enthusiasm while Zide chuckled at the strange energy. Zide reflected on everything heard about Ilatz, unsure how to judge without seeing more truth. Despite doubts, all three advanced together, united in purpose, and ready to uncover buried truths. Silently gripping his sword, Zide vowed to see everything through, remembering Matthias's sacrifice and resolve. Yui spotted the target room. Zide followed silently, tension rising with each cautious step forward. Inside sat Ilatz, poised and unreadable. His silence challenged them more than any sword ever could. Zide froze as Yui advanced. Her piercing gaze met Ilatz's, shifting the room's mood entirely. Ilatz questioned their intrusion. Yui calmly countered, reminding him command grants access when intentions are pure. She confronted him directly, suspicions clear. She demanded truth about Ilatz's ties to recent betrayal. Ilatz agreed to speak. Yui's calm persistence worked, forcing him into a private discussion. While Yui kept him occupied, Zed and Fom seized their chance to infiltrate the forbidden room. Inside, bloodstains hinted at old violence. They hurried, wary that Ilatz might return anytime soon. Fom explained suspicions began from rumors. Digging deeper, he found altered records proving Ilatz's hidden activities. They reached a dead end. Fom remained hopeful, but Zed feared their lead might be false. Bloodstains trailed toward a damaged wall. Fom paused, placing his hand gently against the cold surface. A hidden passage was revealed. Zed helped pry it open, revealing darkness beyond crumbling stone steps. They lit a lamp and descended. As the path deepened, both sensed something unsettling below, back upstairs. Yui confronted Ilatz. She demanded direct answers without lies, avoiding empty political deflection. Ilatz denied betrayal calmly. His voice firm, he asked if such an answer would suffice. Yui raised concerns about army statistics. Ilatz reviewed the report but noticed nothing unusual himself. Mention of Jeed's heirloom shifted her tone. She questioned its meaning and Ilatz's cryptic past warnings. Ilatz claimed it was only a lesson. He offered no more, hiding deeper truths in silence. Assuring her he wasn't involved, he ended the discussion. Yui accepted but remained silently unconvinced. As she departed, Ilatz requested closure. She nodded, promising to inform her allies and leave it behind. Fomb and Zide discovered a ruined room. Shattered walls and eerie silence intensified their unease. Inside, dark stains coated the floor. Blood marked the space, fueling dread about what occurred there. While searching for evidence, Fomb uncovered a worn paper. Zide scanned the room for hidden clues. A drawer spilled open, scattering metal tags. Fomb froze, stunned by the sheer number they uncovered. Those tags identified fallen soldiers used for battlefield recognition. They confirmed this place held grim secrets. Zide explained identification tags were common in armies. Fomb recalled his unit never used such protocol. Fomb examined the tags more closely. Matching names might uncover leads. Jeed was asked to assist. Old uniforms stacked in the corner hinted at hidden events. Zide questioned what really happened here. While Zide searched deeper, Fomb stood motionless. In silence, he discovered something that stopped him cold. A single name left him speechless. Matthias was engraved, someone Fomb clearly recognized from the past. Shock overwhelmed Fomb. The tag belonged to Matthias, an unmistakable name from his long-buried memories. Zed recalled Matthias as Ilatz's close friend. Fomb insisted the tag's presence held deeper, meaning 15 years ago, Matthias vanished with his entire squad. Officially, none of their tags were recovered. If those tags belonged to that lost unit, Ilatz would need to answer for everything soon. Fomb planned to confront Ilatz directly. He told Zai to inform Yui and gather command. Fomb requested help transporting more tags. Zaid agreed, knowing they needed proper cross-checking for evidence. Elsewhere, a team gathered in the courtyard. News of the discovery had reached Central Command quickly. Tension grew among the officers. Faces shifted as the implications behind Matthias's name settled in. Zaid confirmed the tag's authenticity. Suspicion spread Matthias's tag should never have been found in that building. Bloodstains and dog tags in Ilatz's claimed room matched. Though unproven, suspicion strongly leaned toward his guilt. He noticed Foz acting hesitant, concerned. He asked if anything specific was bothering him now. Everyone gathered as Ilatz approached. Serious expressions tightened across the group, bracing for confrontation and answers. Yui explained Fomb's early investigation. Ilatz questioned why so many had been summoned so suddenly. News of Matthias' tag surprised Ilatz, yet his calm response drew suspicion from those around him. Instead of relief, Ilatz's comment hinted unease. Foz quietly asked if Ilatz was the one responsible. Others questioned Ilatz's survival. While his squad vanished, he returned unscathed, creating deeper mistrust among peers. Ilatz remained firm under suspicion. He insisted every word he spoke was truthful, despite growing tension. Zaid struggled with doubts. Despite Ilatz's oddities, his respect for Matthias's memory felt genuinely sincere. Suddenly, Ilatz snapped. He grabbed Zed, demanding to know where that information had come from. Emotions erupted violently. Ilatz shouted, demanding to know who told Zed about that forbidden story. Tension spiked as Ilatz revealed. He returned with Matthias's severed arm clutched tightly in hand. Everyone froze when another soldier contradicted him, swearing no arm had ever been brought back. Two unfamiliar figures approached confidently. Their sudden presence hinted deeper secrets surrounding Matthias's disappearance and Ilatz's survival.